Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It's 7 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm going to bring you 4 hours of a thing we call the drive. And we're going to drive you home and get you home safely. And along the way, give you some news and information and stuff that you can use. Maybe we'll make you chuckle a little bit now and then. Or a guffaw. If we're lucky, we'll get a guffaw out of the thing.
Those don't happen often.
No, they don't. No, those are hard to come by. And I want you to know that although this is radio, I am giving my very best Donald Trump death stare in the direction of Matt Murphy, who once again dissed me today.
He did.
And we didn't have our Matt chat, and I really look forward to those special times, but we didn't have it. Is he there? Is he still over there in the studio?
You know what? It's funny you say it. He literally just turned the light off in the booth and headed out the door.
Oh, really? Yep. Gone.
Yep.
So this
just
is
like
all
that.
wasted.
Yeah, I didn't even hear you.
Yeah. Friday. I'm out of here. Bye-bye. Well, anyway, we got a lot of stuff to talk about here. It is again hot. I've got 94. What do you got there, Chris?
100 degrees.
Woo! I'm telling you, that's brutal. So, the feel-like temperature somewhere probably around 110 today, I would imagine. I'll look real quick to see what the relative humidity is because, we want to make sure that it is a moist heat, that's for sure. Let's see. Today I do a little tappy here. Humidity right now is 47%. This morning it was around 80. During the real hot part of the day, the humidity goes down. But then it comes back up in the evening, and by the time we get off the air, we're probably talking about 80% humidity again, but cooler temperatures.
I'm not sure that makes it any better, though.
No, it doesn't make it any better at all. It is Friday, and so a couple of things that will happen. We love to do our Fone Ur Farb Friday at 4:35 and 5:35, and we love for you to come on and tell us what you think about this, that, or the other. And we want you to have some cogent thoughts. So get your best questions ready. And again, I'm going to just mention this because it's Talk Radio 101. If you are on the phone and you get screened, Chris will screen you. Because we don't just let anybody on the air without being screened.
It's a very thorough screening process.
I know.
Make sure you have two forms of identification.
Nobody actually, we just want to make sure there's a human there. And then stay on the phone. Don't listen on the radio once you get screened. Stay on the phone. It's a pro talk radio listener tip.
Also, don't start having a conversation with someone else in the car with you.
That happened yesterday.
Yeah.
Well, I understand you're on hold. Yesterday some people were on hold for 10 or 15 minutes.
That's true.
Because we had so many people that were trying to get through. And then we come back and you hear somebody having a conversation with somebody. We don't want to tap into that.
No.
We hear she's talking to whoever else is in the car. And then she realized, oh, I'm on the air. Oh, I'm sorry. And then she comes right around. Or just finish up your conversation and say something outrageous.
That'd be good too.
Yeah.
Be entertaining.
Well, that's the last time you'll ever call me that. Oh, hi, Brian. Or, whatever. It'd be a lot of fun. I want to look at the sort of a follow-up to the debate. Yesterday was a discussion about the debate, and I did something yesterday that I don't guess I hardly ever do, and that is that I did a full hour twice. So I did 2 full hours of phones just asking people what they thought. The thing about talk radio is if you think about it, it's a really good focus group. Listening to talk radio are people who are, of a conservative ilk generally. And so if you want to know what conservatives in Middle Tennessee thought about the debate, then, you're going to get a good cross-section of people, especially if you do it over a couple of 2 hours. And one of the things that came out of there, that conversation, I would say, and Chris, I think I want you to back me up on this because you listened to all of it too, was that many people thought that Vivek Ramaswamy, did I say that right?
I'm not sure.
Because there's a guy who's going to call up and chew me out if I get it wrong. Yeah. Vivek Ramaswamy was one of the people that people thought really won the debate.
Yes, I'd say
They really,
a majority, I would think.
yeah, I would say a lot of people really liked Ramaswamy and thought that he did real well. One of the questions that came up, and I promised that I would get an answer to it, is some people have said, well, what about that Soros scholarship? What is the story on that? And I have it. I have the details. And just so we know, Republican, this is from townhall.com. Ramaswamy has defended a Soros scholarship he accepted, claiming it came at a time when he didn't have the money to pay for Yale Law School. But there's one problem with that argument, according to reports. The entrepreneur was already a multimillionaire when he took it. There was a separate scholarship that I won at the age of 24 or 25 when I was going to law school in my mid-20s. I'm in my early 20s, when I didn't have the money, and it was a merit scholarship that hundreds of kids win that was partially funded, not by George Soros, but by Paul Soros, a relative, his brother. And to be perfectly honest with you, I would have been a fool to turn down that scholarship at the age of 24. However, according to Fox News, he reported a salary of more than $2 million at the time. Ramaswamy was an up-and-comer. When Ramaswamy accepted the award in 2011, he was a first-year law student at Yale and had been working for several years as an investment analyst at the hedge fund QVT Financial. In 2011, the same year he accepted the award, Ramaswamy reported, $2.2 million in income, according to his tax returns, which he released in June. He reported a total of $1.1 million in income the 3 years prior. And his campaign spokesperson, Tricia McLaughlin, defended Ramaswamy's acceptance of the generic scholarship. It's a generic scholarship that hundreds of students win to attend graduate school, funded by a relative of George Soros, who is long dead. And so there you have it. I mean, you take it for what it's worth. He was making good dough, even though he was in Yale Law School and had, made about $2.2 million, or the year before $1.17 million. But he did take the award, grant, scholarship from not George Soros, but Paul Soros. So take it for what it's worth. You be the judge. I just present the facts here. But people had asked about that, and they said, well, let's get to the bottom of that. What are the facts? Okay, for better or for worse, those are the facts. But I got to tell you, it wasn't only our audience who liked what they saw in Ramaswamy in that debate. Former President Donald Trump praised entrepreneur Ramaswamy following the first Republican primary debate. This answer gave Vivek. I don't want to get yelled at. And Ramaswamy a big win in the debate because of a thing called truth. He was referring to the moment on stage where Ramaswamy called Trump the best president of the 21st century. Ramaswamy was very vocal on the debate stage about the weaponization of the federal government and how his primary opponents need to speak out against what is happening to Trump, who's facing 4 indictments, 2 of which were brought by DOJ-appointed special counsel Jack Smith. I'm running for president of the United States. We're skating on thin ice, and we cannot set a precedent where the party in power uses police force to indict its political opponent. It's wrong. We have to end the weaponization of justice in this country. He further challenged former Vice President Mike Pence to commit to pardoning Trump if he was elected president. And Pence said, we'll give fair consideration to a pardon request. Trump, of course, was not at the debate. He did a pre-recorded interview with former Fox News host Tucker Carlson, who's now out there on the platform they formerly called Twitter, but now call X. And on that front, I want to make sure that we clarify another thing that we got sort of wrong yesterday, because I was a bonehead and I didn't really understand a certain way that viewership on X is counted. Let me just see if I can give this back to you. Fox News debate viewership blew out Tucker's Trump interview. Fox News Republican debate on Wednesday night surpassed rating expectations. for an event that was missing the biggest audience draw of the Republican politics, former President Donald Trump. Featuring 8 candidates polling far behind Trump, the first debate of the 2024 campaign drew a solid, although for these kinds of things, not an overwhelmingly great number, 12.8 million viewers across Fox News and Fox Business. And while those numbers didn't come close to Fox's record-breaking 2015 debate, they were far higher than what Fox News executives were hoping for. After all, in 2016, was a rating supernova, and cord-cutting has only exacerbated that in years. Now, instead of being in the debate, as we told you, Trump opted for a counter-programming 46-minute interview with Fox News host Tucker Carlson, which dropped on X just as the show started in Milwaukee. Now, they write sometime, and I asked you yesterday, how many views did it have? And let's see, as of the writing of this article, it was 253 million views. But these grand claims are based on the Twitter views metric, which, according to the folks at Mediaite, are sort of meaningless. Apparently, if you are on Twitter and you come across it and you pause for as little as 2 seconds, that counts as a view. Okay? Well, there probably weren't 253 million people who watched substantial parts of that interview. There were probably 253 million. There were probably, I don't know. We don't know how many people. There's no real reliable way to know how many people actually watched the interview. But we do know that, 253 million or more now, it's probably more than that now, saw it, looked at it for a second, decided they didn't want to invest, and went on. Maybe they stopped, maybe they didn't, we don't know. But if it was 2 seconds, you get counted for a view, which really disappoints me now because, and now I don't know, when we look at our metrics, were people actually watching the show, or did they just stumble across it for 2 seconds? Hard to know. Elon Musk took over Twitter. He hid the video view metric, which showed how many people watched a video on Twitter. Even the video view metric was pretty flimsy, according to Twitter. If you watch a video for 2 seconds with only half the video player in view, that counts as one video view. I'm getting into the weeds here, but the bottom line is probably the way this thing shakes out, and there's no way to know absolutely for sure, but we know the 12.8 million is a solid number because of the way they collect numbers for shows that are broadcast on cable or on regular over-the-air or local stations. We know that's a pretty solid number, but we don't know how solid the number is for those who watched it because not everybody stopped to look, and maybe they looked at it for a minute and went on. We just don't know. But it's probably that the debate outdid the Tucker Carlson event according to the way they count these metrics. No way to know for sure, but it sort of seems that way. Story here from the Washington Examiner that the GOP field is already shrinking. When you think about it, there were 13 candidates who were announced, and only 8 made the stage. So really, are those other candidates, are they really candidates? Are they seriously have any chance at all? And then you look at Asa Hutchinson and Doug Burgum, who used some interesting fundraising gimmicks to somehow meet the requirements to make the debate stage. So that's a 9-candidate field going down to about 7. And of course, Trump is still, dominating everybody's numbers. I mean, there's nobody. Some people really thought Nikki Haley did well. And here's a story, I just passed this on, Washington Examiner. Former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley has turned her time on the Republican debate stage this week into momentum, although Governor DeSantis and political newcomer Vivek Ramaswamy have largely been perceived as the debate winners based on polling. Haley saw the sharpest rise in support overall, according to a new post-debate poll from the Washington Post. The survey found 29% of respondents overall, who are primary voters, said they would consider voting for Haley before the debate, and 46% said they would consider voting for her after it was over. Haley's favorability rating among GOP primary voters increased from 51% before the debate to post-debate. 51%, not bad. So maybe it was a good debate for Nikki Haley overall. 22 past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk. You know, people around this area know Genesis Diamonds as a value leader, and it's because they've proven it. You want to know why? Genesis is a true direct importer with connections that go back 50-plus years. No middlemen markups, no consignment fees, no third-party people to pay. But one of the things that people here really love about Genesis is that this is where you can get her a better ring, a designer ring, a handcrafted ring that reflects how you see her. While other stores sell knockoff rings or crappy overseas rings, at Genesis you can get her a stunning designer ring made right here in America. Top designers. These are rings that are made to last. Names like Tacori and Verragio and dozens more. Bottom line, she will proudly show off a Genesis ring because it won't be a mass-produced ring. It will be something unique, something amazing. And don't worry about the price. Genesis will make sure you get her a designer ring that fits the budget with a diamond she will love. That's what Genesis specializes in, combining the best diamond value with the best quality ring to give you the total package. Genesis Diamonds, where luxury and value come together every day. Check them out in Green Hills and Cool Springs. And don't forget about the all-new collection of amazing luxury pre-owned Rolex watches. It's something to see.
Maui has released a list of verified missing people after this month's deadly wildfire, but officials there are still asking for help. We'll explain. And what is the special session costing Tennessee taxpayers? We're going to fill you in on that as well at the bottom of the hour on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right. And by the way, we're going to catch up on the special session with Representative Johnny Garrett, who is stirs in the leadership up there in the House, and find out where we are at the end of the week. That's coming up after the news. I want to talk about Hawaii and Maui again. 338 people are missing, according to one list that's been put. I mean, there's something like 1,100 that are unaccounted for. But the authorities there have released a list that they believe are people who truly are unaccounted for in the aftermath of the deadliest wildfires, that just wiped out the town of Lahaina. And officials were asking for anyone on the list who survived the fires to come forward. That's actually quite helpful. When you put out a list and it's got names and people can get to their phones and they look at the list and say, oh, no, I'm okay. And then you can get your name off the list. This soundbite just sums it up for me. This is a woman who lost everything. And she's talking to reporters after Joe Biden had made a trip over there, and she's not happy with the way the government is responding. Take a listen. I mean, your heart just goes out to her. But she has some very harsh things to say about the governmental response and Joe Biden in particular.
Today, I haven't had any money come in. I haven't had anybody call me back. I didn't have anything. I have no idea. I lost my house. I lost my car. I lost my animals. I mean, come on, man. We're not getting anything. Till today, I still didn't get my meds. I cannot get my meds yet. My medicine was all burnt in my house. My rent money was all burnt in my house. I have no money anymore. I think Joe Biden should take his $700 and get back on the Falcon nail and go home. That's what I think. Because $700 compared to all the millions he's giving to Ukraine, why? We need it. That's why we don't understand why. We're citizens and we cannot get money. But if they're not citizens, they get gazillions of dollars from the USA. Where's our government? Fix your house before you fix somebody else's house.
This is how, like, your community, other Hawaiians, locals, indigenous people, is that how they feel, pretty much how you feel?
Everybody feels that way. Come on. That's why the local people stick together and we help our own people, because we know the outside people are not going to do it.
Well, I mean, if you're getting $700, and she makes a good point, if you're getting, going to hand me $700 while you send billions and billions and billions to Ukraine, and you're paying off people's educational loans, with all the waste in government, can you do a little better by the people who literally are living on the side of the road with no home, no car? As she said, even her medicines and her rent money were burned up in the fire. And she said, I wish he would take his $700. I cleaned it up a little bit. But she had, you can get back on your what kind of plane and just get out of here. And I tell you, that does. I mean, honestly, again, I just want to say, the thing I draw from this is, if you are in a natural disaster, you can't count on government to help you out. You got to have a plan. But it seems wrong that you get a $700 check. By the way, how do you cash that check in a place that's burned up? How do you do that? But how can you get a $700 check while we're sending billions and billions and billions of dollars in foreign aid around the world? 31 minutes past the hour.
Good afternoon. It is 3:31, and I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. One of the big stories, this intense heat. We've got sunny skies, 100 degrees currently. A heat advisory remains in effect until 7 p.m. tomorrow. Currently, our heat index value at 111 degrees. We'll have a traffic report, and we'll get you the official weekend weather in just a bit. Maui has released a list of verified missing people after this month's deadly wildfire. Now they're asking for help to find out if those people are alive, but just have yet to check in. Here's ABC's Alex Stone.
It's a plea from Maui's police chief.
We are asking, if you're on this list,
please contact the FBI.
388 verified names released publicly with the goal of helping to find people who are still alive but who are on that list. The hope is that people will see themselves on that list and can call and say they're alive. The FBI has a list of about 1,100 missing, but many are only first names. The 388 released are believed to be real and their whereabouts are unknown. 115 people are confirmed dead.
The taxpayer tab for Tennessee's special legislative session continues to grow. New data obtained by Channel 4 shows that every day the session goes on, it costs taxpayers nearly $60,000 a day between transportation and per diem pay for each lawmaker. That's according to the Office of Legislative Administration. Data shows state senators, they get about $8,000 a day combined in per diem pay, or $242 a day per senator. Gas mileage payments for the Senate come to a little more than $6,000 a day, or about $185 a day per senator. As for the House, in which the number of reps triples that of the Senate, per diem pay adds up to more than $24,000, or about $251 per state representative. Nearly $20,000 is allotted for the representative's total transportation costs per day. That is the latest news. Weather and traffic, they're next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Let me tell you about DT McCall and then their 5 convenient locations here in Middle Tennessee. They can get you going on just about anything you might need for your home. Do you need appliances? They got them. You need furniture? Man, do they have a selection for you to look at. You need a mower for your yard, or do you need a gun safe? I mean, whatever it is that you can think of, you're going to find it at DT McCall's. If you've not been to one of their stores, you really got to go by there. And here's what I want you to know. They've been around for more than 100 years, and you really don't make it that long without having a reputation for treating people right. Whenever possible, DT McCall sells products that are made and manufactured in Middle Tennessee. And this means that, you're supporting local Tennessee manufacturers and workers when you shop at DT McCall's. How about England furniture made in Tennessee? Lazy Boy items made in Tennessee. Mattress line exclusive to DT McCall's, made in Tennessee. Listen, you've got to go by and take a look. Just, go to their website and find out where the convenient location is nearest you. That's dtmccalls.com, dtmccalls.com. 39 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Joining us on the Newsmaker hotline is Representative Johnny Garrett, who is the House Majority Whip up at the State House here, and has been part of what's going on in this special session that's created so much interest. Representative Garrett, thank you so much for joining us here on The Drive. Greatly appreciate it.
You bet, Brian. Thanks for having me on.
All right, so let's talk about where we are, because it's a little hard to keep up, given the fact that, well, you got a lot of activity. Things go to committee. Some things are rejected, or sent to study, or sent over. Maybe we'll look at this in January. And then you got the Senate, which came in and said basically they got, I think, 3 or 4 items that they're willing to consider. And they have also gone on record as saying that they don't really expect that they're going to open up any committees on the Senate side to consider things that are now being considered on the House. So where are we right now? What has a realistic chance of passing both the House and Senate and be sent over to the governor's office for his consideration?
Well, I'll tell you, it's real unfortunate when we have one side of the chamber, the House, ready to work, and the other side ready to go home and stay home. I mean, we have just a small group of senators that want to do nothing. They're part of the do nothing Senate at this point. I mean, we've done some really good things. Had several bills that we were debating on the floor yesterday. I think we got through 7 or 8. There were 25 on the calendar yesterday. There's more for Monday. I mean, we are ready to do some good things for Tennesseans, and the Senate just doesn't want to don't want to do anything. They don't want to address our mental health crisis. The House is ready to. They don't want to defeat red flag laws. We did. We voted down every single potential red flag law that was filed during the special session. Those are done. We want to address juvenile crime in this state. We did that in the House. Our chamber next door, they don't. And so it's an interesting dilemma that we find ourselves in. But when the governor calls us back into special session, and any time that I can feel like that we can improve the lives of Tennesseans, that's the job that I was elected to do. That's the job the House is elected to do, and we're ready to work. So I think there's some hope here. Okay.
In what way? What do you think is the best thing that the House has come up with thus far? Because the governor wanted, he doesn't call it a red flag law, but it really basically was a red flag law. And you say that's all been rejected. That's not going to happen. And I think that, that was pretty much made clear to the governor beforehand. So what actually do you think is the best thing that's going to be coming out of the House that has a chance of passage in the Senate?
Well, we hope that the juvenile justice reform that's on the table with these blended sentences, we hope that the Senate believes that's an important issue to tackle. We've already increased access to mental health with more funding in our appropriations bill. We hope that will be put up to a vote on Monday or Tuesday or whenever they decide to wake up and work over there. We've passed some legislation to fortify our fire alarms. One of the problems with the Covenant shooting is they didn't know. They thought it was a fire alarm, and it wasn't actually a fire alarm. Of course, it was a completely different situation. We've passed legislation to address that issue. We've provided legislation for more security funding for our higher education. We've passed legislation that's been supported by the Covenant parents to protect the autopsies of children. So anyone can't just go and grab these autopsies for no apparent reason. I mean, there's serious work that I believe we can still get done. We just got to make sure the Senate realizes the importance of what we've done. And we're right there on the finish line. The House is ready. And we just hope
was there anything? I'm sorry to interrupt you, but is there anything among this that is so urgent that it couldn't have waited until January?
I think the conversation is well worth having these issues and discussing. But some of these, I believe, I don't know that there's an overwhelming desire that there was an immediate thing that we could do at a special session or January, because I've always believed that if we've got someone that's in some sort of crisis, I mean, they're in some sort of mental crisis and they can be a harm to themselves or a harm to others, you can't just go after the object. You've got to go after them. You need to make sure we can get them in a situation, in an environment where we can get them treatment, where we can get them, to a doctor to see what's going on with their particular situation. And if you do that, and if you can get the ability to take care of that person, Well, you removed their ability to get to any weapons or objects that could harm people. So you're kind of taking care of both, but you're not just concentrating on an object, which has seemed to be the focus of what a lot of folks wanted this special session to be about. But we believe that that's not the actual root of the problem. The root of the problem is the person. And we got to make sure we have the resources available, the funding available, to treat that person, to figure out what's going on that leads them down this violent path to then act like a violent criminal and actually commit some of these crimes. We've got to get to the root of that.
Well, you mentioned that the Senate doesn't seem to be wanting to be all too much involved in this process. How involved has the governor been? Because I've seen a story that said he's been like, not present during the special session, not working to push for things that the governor's office thinks is important, which is often the case. So has the governor been, absent?
He's not been absent, so to speak, but I know and am aware of when leadership of both the House and the Senate decide to meet, typically they have meetings with the governor, the governor's staff, and the Senate has said, we don't want the governor there. And so when the governor gets that message and thinks that the House and Senate are going to maybe work through getting something done, but then the Senate won't even work with the House, it becomes a real dilemma. And that's why I say it's really in the Senate. The ball's in the Senate's court here for what's left to do come Monday, Tuesday, or whenever this thing's going to end. So the governor's not been absent. The governor's letting the legislative process take place. He's filed his bills. He's had sponsors for those bills. Those bills have been up for debate in committee. He's had himself, along with probably his staff, working these bills. So there's been no difference other than making a political point as to say that he's absent. But he is working the governor's legislation that he's brought forth in this special session, along with any other members, is a legislative process, and that is what I can see is happening. Other than when it comes to what bills are traveling through the system, and there's maybe some amendments here, hey, we can do this better a little here, and we get the governor involved, and the Senate just doesn't want to speak with their staff. It's a hard pill to swallow when you've got one chamber that doesn't want to meet with the executive branch of our government. That's why I say they've got to get their head out of sand and start coming to the plate so we can get some real things done.
All right. So I've heard it said that a great number of people really did not want to have this special session, that the governor may have jumped the gun without, doing his due diligence to find out what kind of appetite there might be for a special session. Would you agree with that assessment or not agree with that assessment?
I would agree that at least from my call, because I can't speak for everyone, or at least from the House perspective, there was some reservations on the immediacy of coming to the special session. And I think that's why the governor kind of took a breath, met with legislatures over the summer, and kind of came up with a call.
But wouldn't it have been better for that conversation to happen before rather than after?
Oh, it did happen before the special session was called, when he met with legislatures to kind of get their insight, their ideas, whatever they wanted to see if a special session would have been called. And that's why I think the call was, it was a pretty narrow call for what he saw the legislature and along with what he wanted to see discussed in special session. So I don't see that as, go ahead.
No, I was going to just say, because if what I'm reading in the situation that you have described is that the Senate has no appetite for this special session whatsoever. Not real. I mean, they're doing a few things, but they really don't have much appetite for it, or they would be, as you say, more involved and not just sort of checked out. And it seems like to me that before you go into a special session, you ought to have some expectation of what can really honestly be accomplished. And he put out this order of protection bill, and that's just not going to happen. It's never going to happen. And then it became a thing where he said, well, let's just use it as a place where people put out their ideas and let's see what happens. Is that any way to run a special session?
No, it's not. And I think if the special, there's two ways to call a special session. It's one by a vote of the House and a vote of the Senate, or the governor calls it like he did in this one. If it was up to the House, if he punted this to say, hey, House, Senate, you want a special session, I don't think you would have had the votes to call the special session. So that's kind of the sentiment, that if it was up to us, we wouldn't have that particular special session. But since he did call it and by statute he has that ability. I'm elected to work for the 45th district, and I'm ready to come to work to make things. Since we got to be here anyway, we might as well try to do the best we can to have the best policy out of this special session. And I think since we're already here, and since we've already had several bills that even a lot of the senators have filed, they're worth at least a discussion. They're worth at least that time in committee. So the Senate, so the people that elected them, can hear whatever legislation that is filed. Like I said, we have killed everything on the House side that would even come close to any ERPO or water protection law or whatnot. Now we've got what we have left. That what we have legs are actually good things for Tennesseans that could come out of the special session that probably really nobody wanted.
All right, and okay, it's $60,000 a day just for transportation and per diem, and not to mention the added security that had to be brought in. I mean, are we getting our money's worth out of this?
I think you are, and I think we will. If Tennesseans will, once we get through, you will see the policy that we develop, and I think that'll be worth that cost. But there's no additional cost. We budget every year for 90 legislative days. That's the most we can have in the General Assembly for given for the 2 years that we will be in session. So this is not costing the Tennessee taxpayer anything additional, and any additional security that might be had for overtime purposes for state troopers, that's already incorporated in their existing budget. So it's not like we are going to be costing anything more to the taxpayer because we've already budgeted those dollars in for our normal legislative process.
All right. Well, Representative Johnny Garrett, who is the House Majority Whip, a man who counts the numbers and know where things lie, that's the job of a whip. I thank you so much for joining us here on The Drive.
Brian, it's a pleasure. Thank you very much.
51 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock.
Hey folks, I'm Paul Winkler. One of the things I've been hearing a lot from people lately is the concern about the dollar crashing. And you'll see this out there on the internet all over the place, articles written about it. And the idea is that the Russian and Chinese, those countries are looking at getting together and creating their own currency that will compete against the US dollar as a reserve currency. Now, for many, many decades, there have been other currencies that have been trying to vie for that status. And there's a possibility that you're going to have some that are going to encroach on that a little bit. But is it that big of a thing to worry about? Well, number one, last year, the Chinese currency made up very little of any kind of world trade, number one. But what is it that's really going on underneath the surface? A lot of it is trying to sell you newsletters and investments that you probably ought to stay away from. For example, one of the things I see is, well, you ought to buy gold because the dollar's going to crash. And you see all of these commercials out there, and I say, well, wait a minute, wait. They're trying to get you to buy gold with your what? They're looking to take your dollars. If they really believe what they're saying, why would they take your dollars for their gold? Number one. Number two, how do you protect yourself against these valuation changes in various currencies? Well, let me explain it this way. Let's say that you had a currency called the clam. Okay, and you had a country that had one clam and you could exchange it for $1 at any one point in time. Let's say that that's the case. And you had a widget that was sold by this country, and you could buy that widget in that country for one clam. So you take your $1, you exchange it for a clam, and then you got your widget. Now, what if the dollar weakens? Well, what happens now, this clam is the same, right? Nothing different here. It's the same deal. But instead of $1, now it takes $2 to get the clam. Now, what happened? Your widget just doubled in price from your perspective as an American. Well, how do we use this to our advantage? As an investor, we want to make sure that we don't just myopically only focus on U.S. stocks. And that's a big mistake investors made from 2000 through 2010 and other periods in history, in the 1970s, the late 1980s, and so on and so forth. What we want to do is we want to make sure that we have good international diversification, because if the dollar weakens, then those international investments go up in value. So it's very, very important to know how globally diversified you really are as an investor. You want to learn more? call us up for a free 15-minute consultation at paulwinkler.com, and we'll walk you through what we do and see if we can be of help to you, the investor out there that is so often being sold things that they really don't need to be buying.
One major U.S. city is suing some foreign automakers over the rash of auto thefts. A Brentwood jewelry store falls victim to an armed robbery, and a DeKalb County student has been arrested over threatening text. I'll have those stories and more coming up at 4 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Well, the markets have been closed for about an hour. Let's take a look at what happened. Dow Jones Industrial up 240, almost 250 points. S&P is up 29. The NASDAQ ended the day up 126. All screens are green, and John Maxon is standing by from Beacon Capital Management. John, I was a bit surprised, given that we got those final remarks from Chairman Powell about inflation. What's the latest on that?
Yeah, I think the market was a little bit relaxed, just the sense that they expect a little bit more of a hawkish tone, but really nothing changed, to be honest with you, Brian. He commented that hikes remained on the table and that he didn't expect rates to come down anytime soon. So it was really kind of what was expected. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens going forward. He did reiterate that the Fed would not back away from their goal of 2% inflation, which we're still far above that. And I'll tell you, the interesting thing to watch over the next few weeks is going to be crude oil, because energy is such a big component of inflation. And that's come up about $13 a barrel just since the end of June. And so to see whether or not that's going to have an impact on inflation, we have to watch it really closely.
Yeah, a barrel of intermediate crude selling for $80 a barrel right now. John, thank you so much. Learn about all the things they can do for you over at Beacon Capital Management by going to their website, askbeaconnow.com. It is 59 past the hour. United Structural Systems, let me talk about them. A good company. They've been around for about 25 years in this area. They have like around 25,000 satisfied residential customers. And if you've got a problem with waterproofing or foundation repair, I know it sounds scary. Here's the thing you need to know. It could be something that needs to be fixed. It could be big. It could be a small problem that will start small, but if you don't do anything, could become a bigger problem. Or, you may look at it and say, oh, there's nothing to worry about there at all. The bottom line is you don't know, and what you want is really good guidance and somebody who's not going to try to sell you something that you don't need. And for my money, that's United Structural Systems. Really, really good people. The attitude and the culture is the reason that they keep their employees, from project managers to customer service to production. Some have been there for the full 25 years that USS has been in existence. That's really something. They guarantee their best at USS, serving Middle Tennessee, Southern Kentucky, Western Kentucky, Northern Alabama, online at ussTN.com. Or call this number. I'm going to give it to you twice, 615-488-7855. Again, 615-488-7855.
Good afternoon. It is 4:01 p.m. on your Friday. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. We are still at 100 degrees, a heat advisory in effect until 7 o'clock tomorrow night. The current heat index standing at 111 degrees here on Music Row. We'll get that weekend forecast for you as well as a traffic report here in just a bit. Following former President Trump's appearance at the Fulton County Jail yesterday, the last of the 19 defendants in that racketeering indictment in Georgia has now turned themselves in, and that brings the case to its next stage.
Came down to the wire for two defendants, Stephen Lee and Tervizan Kuti, who are two people that were accused of trying to strong-arm Ruby Freeman, who was a poll worker in Fulton County, and all of them have now surrendered. They've been booked, their mugshots taken, and perhaps could be due here in Fulton County Court in about 2 weeks for arraignment.
That is ABC's Aaron Katursky reporting from Fulton County. The city of Chicago alleges a surge in car thefts and other crime is a result of the actions of two automakers. Here's Brian Clark with details on the lawsuit.
Chicago says entry-level Kias and Hyundais not having engine immobilization devices mean that lower and middle-income residents are disproportionately affected by an increase in vehicle theft. These claims were made in a lawsuit filed against the car makers Thursday. The city says Kia and Hyundai thefts have made up more than half of all reported this year in Chicago. Both car makers, in response, laid out steps they're taking to reduce the risk of theft.
Again, that's ABC's Brian Clark reporting. An investigation currently underway after police say two unidentified suspects have robbed a Brentwood jewelry store early this morning. That was at about, a little before noon, so not necessarily early, but nonetheless, two male suspects armed with handguns and wearing masks entered the American Jewelry Company on Franklin Road in Brentwood. That's according to the police there. The men broke glass cases inside the store and stole all kinds of merchandise. No one hurt in the robbery. The suspects remain at large. A DeKalb County student was arrested today after authorities say he wrote a text threatening to shoot someone at his school because he was upset about a test. DeKalb County High School student Austin Ray Light, 18, was charged with threatening an act of mass violence against a school. That's from the sheriff there, Patrick Ray. He reported that in a media release. And early voting started today in Davidson County for Nashville's mayoral runoff election. Early voting polls, they'll be open for a couple of weeks up until September 9th. That's ahead of the September 14th runoff between candidates Freddie O'Connell and Alice Rowley. Other races include Tennessee House District 51 and several council seats. That is the latest news. Traffic and weather, by the way, we're up to 101 degrees now. We'll get that weather forecast to you here. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Hey, good afternoon on this Friday, August 25th. It's hour number 2 of The Drive. I'm Brian Wilson, and we're glad to have you along on this sweltering August 25th. Feel like temperatures downtown 110.
Ugh.
Yeah, but at least it's a moist heat. You know, that's the thing we got going for us.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm telling you. It's getting, it's one thing you would kind of expect, when you have a prissy little French bulldog that when it's cold outside, and it's time for the bulldog to go out to, Grogu's garden and do what Grogu does in Grogu's garden. You would expect that sometimes, and that's a little difficult, the dog will balk at the door and doesn't really want to go.
Yeah.
You understand that.
Mm-hmm.
She does the same thing in the hot weather.
You open the door and it's like...
You open the door and she goes, "Oh, I am not going out in that mess. Are you crazy, man? That's nuts." So you end up having to carry her. Well, I mean, honestly, to be honest with you, the concrete's too hot.
Yeah, that's true.
For little puppy's feet. So you have to end up carrying her down to Grogu's garden. And then she doesn't want to be in Grogu's garden. She wants to be back where the air conditioning is. Spoiled little dog that she is. But I feel the same way. And, Cabana wife again on another trip. She's flitting about the country an awful lot, don't you think?
Wow.
And
Must
I know.
be nice.
And I know. Must be nice to be her, huh? And so, my task, and I get a list of honeydews, but the number one thing I got to do, water the plants.
Yes, that's very
well.
important.
She got a ton of plants. I can't find all the plants, and if you miss one and it dies, then there's going to be hell to pay. So
It'll be pointed out to you real quick if you miss it.
You can be sure of that.
Yeah.
Cares deeply about her plants. But anyway, try to stay cool out there. It is. I mean, really, it's just brutal.
One more day, and then we'll get a break.
Is it gonna rain this weekend? I think.
I don't know that it's gonna rain necessarily, but we'll definitely get a break from the heat on Sunday. And then I saw next week's forecast actually looked pretty nice.
Well, that's good. I need rain.
Yeah, we could use a shower.
I had a big. I don't know how to describe this. I had a big flower bed in the middle of my side yard, which had just gone to ruin, actually. And it was at one time it was very nice. Again, remember, I've been trying to get the yard in order, but it's been a struggle. But there was this one flower bed. It was just a big round flower bed, right smack dab in the middle of the side yard. It's where I put the 27-foot Christmas tree.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Except that I had to really cut back. There's some old rose bushes there that haven't been tended to in years, and some other things that I had to. Well, I hired my friend Seth to come down here and to take out all of that stuff.
Okay.
I took out all those. I mean, he brought in heavy equipment. We're talking about a little, what do you call them? With the
little excavator.
A little bulldozer.
Oh,
those
wow.
little tiny bulldozers, you know, and ripped them and leveled it all out, and we're going to turn it into just main grass.
Yeah,
because I don't want to care for another flower bed, and ever since we put down the seed, there has not been one drop of rain.
Of course not.
No way to water over there. So I mean, I don't know. I want to get some rain. I want to get that grass growing again. And try to get that whole thing straightened out. So that's my dilemma. I don't know why I'm telling you all that, except that it was fun to. I wanted to drive it.
Oh, the little bulldozer.
Yeah, but Seth wouldn't let me.
You're not qualified, sir.
Yeah, I'm not heavy equipment qualified, and it's really cool though. It's got it didn't really even tear up the yard. It's and just has a little front loader on the front of it. I mean, you can go to town, man. I want one. The Biden administration, has come after your dish. Well, I mean, the Democrats, not necessarily just the Biden administration. Even before Biden, they came after your dishwasher. They came after all these things around your house, the low flow toilets. That's Democrats. They want to change everything in your house so that it becomes basically a house full of things that do not work. The other day they were talking about, well, we got to make some changes to air conditioning. Don't you dare change my air conditioning. My air conditioning is working just fine. Thank you. Thanks to the folks at Busy Bee, I have really cold air and I love it. And I don't want it messed with. And I just know, given the history of the government tinkering around with things they have no business tinkering around in, that if they mess with my air conditioning, it's not going to be as good as it is now. You can be sure of that. They wanted to do away with your gas range, and they still do, by the way. They have made, they said, well, we're not coming after you. Can't, it's not that we're saying you can't have a gas range. It just has to meet these standards. And the standards would wipe out just about every gas range that's on the market. You know, I don't want an inefficient gas range. I want the gas range that cooks. I want to get it done. You know, and then they decided they're going to come after your dishwasher and your washing machine. And what was the other thing that we were talking about, Chris, that they wanted to?
Is it water heater?
Water heater. Your water heater. Yeah, they're going to come after your water heater. Leave that stuff alone. I mean, if it works, you know, don't mess with it. What does your dad say? If it's not broke, don't fix it. You know, and leave it alone. Leave well enough alone. You know what they want to come after now, ladies and gentlemen? Your ceiling fan. That's right. Biden administration's latest home appliance crackdown, ceiling fans. The Department of Energy wants ceiling fans to become more energy efficient. Ceiling fans are the latest target of the Biden administration's green agenda. The Department of Energy is proposing a rule that would require ceiling fans to be more energy efficient, arguing it would save U.S. households on energy cost. I mean, how difficult? I mean, what can you do to a ceiling? What is a ceiling fan? It's basically an electric motor, right? It's an electric motor you turn, and it's got a fan. It's got a fan attached to it. You know, what kind of efficiencies of scale can you get out of that? You know, it is what it is. But listen to this. According to the Energy Department's analysis, the new rules would save households about, you ready for this, $39 over the lifespan of the fan. $39 over. And what is the lifespan of a ceiling fan? I mean, some of them go 20 years, right?
You hope so, anyway.
I mean, you know, they some of them are just, you can't kill them. Some of them have been there since the 70s, for goodness sakes.
Yep.
But $39 is what we're talking about over a period of, let's just say graciously that, you know, a good ceiling fan will last you 20 years. I'm going to now pick up my phone and do math. Hang on a second. $39 divided by 20. That's $1.95 a year. Really, honestly, this is your priority? You know, you got people in Lahaina who, you know, are desperate for government help. You've got all of these problems around the country that need to be addressed, and you're putting all of this attention on a ceiling fan. Yeah, you know, but it's the energy elf. It's Jennifer Granholm, the energy secretary. This rule would require numerous small business fan manufacturers to redesign their products and may put between 10 and 30% of small business ceiling fan manufacturers out of business. The Energy Department has been on the warpath to impose more stringent regulations. Gas stoves, ovens, washing machines, refrigerators, air conditioners, dishwashers, and other essentials as part of its mission to advance energy efficiency and conservation. You know, I mean, look, a lot of people don't like ceiling fans. A lot of people think from an aesthetic standpoint, they're just about the ugliest, most hideous thing you can put in a room. But I can't sleep without one. Can you?
I do like having a fan going.
I got to have a fan in the bedroom. I can't sleep. I think it's partially the cool air across my face, but also the sound. The kind of white noise that you get from a ceiling fan.
Yeah, maybe.
I like it. Now, again, thank you so much, but no thank you. One Biden policy made food prices go up 15%. Food prices have soared since President Biden took office, with countless American families facing sticker shock, according to basedpolitics.com. This isn't entirely Biden's fault, of course, but a new study suggests that one of Biden's policies may have led to food prices to increase by about 15%. The Nonpartisan Foundation for Government Accountability just released a new report analyzing expansion of food stamp benefits and the many unintended consequences. There it is. That's what happens. You do something and you don't think there's going to be a consequence, and then it turns out there was. An unintended consequence it had for taxpayers and shoppers alike. The report said that upon taking office, Biden circumvented Congress to force through a 27% increase in food stamp benefits. The result has been a huge increase in food stamp spending at taxpayer expense. Rolling back the expansion could save taxpayers $193 billion over the next 10 years. But according to research from the World Bank, the new study estimates that while not all the overall increase in food prices is due to food stamp expansion, when you exclude other factors, food prices have gone up by 15% due to the policy change. This fits in with a common trend in economics where government subsidies intended to make things more affordable actually end up increasing prices as businesses jack up prices in response to the artificially inflated demand. Thank you. Again, unintended consequence. And meanwhile, as we told you yesterday, your CDC, your Centers for Disease Control, has put out an issue that said, start wearing your mask again. And by the way, don't kiss your small pet turtle. As of Thursday, approximately 10 million Americans live in areas where the CDC deems the level of COVID-19 cases to be at medium. The agency says that those living in such areas should wear masks indoors. Yeah, like that's going to happen. I'm never going to wear my mask again. I don't care. I'll take my chances. And then they say, by the way, also don't kiss your small turtles because you can get salmonella. As we discussed with you yesterday, 6 cases in Tennessee of salmonella that people got apparently from kissing their small pet turtle. It's not something they recommend. In a moment, the RNC has decided where they will host their 2028 presidential nominating convention. We were in the running. Who got it? I'll tell you in just a moment, 21 minutes past the hour. You're in the market for a pole barn. The 2 brothers that run Stoltz Co., 2 guys you need to talk to. They can help you out. First of all, they're known for their exceptional quality, their craftsmanship, and fair prices. They can build you a new pole barn to your specifications with your needs in mind. That is the Stoltz Co. difference. You can use pole barns for all kinds of things. It can function as a classic tool and work barn, a garage, even a place to live. Flexibility is the key. They combine the classic post-frame barn look with the reliability of modern materials and techniques to give you a finished barn that will stand the test of time. They don't scrimp on quality. They don't cut corners. They believe their customers deserve only the best. So I want to send you to their website. It's stoltzco.com, STOLTZCO.com. Go there, take a look at some of the examples of things they've done for others, and you'll come quickly to the realization that this ain't your grandpappy's pole barn. This is something new. This is something different, and you're going to like it. Then give them a call, 615-622-5992. Stoltz Co., where quality workmanship and great customer service is affordable. That's stoltzco.com. stoltzco.com.
President Biden asked his thoughts today on the Russian plane crash that took the life of Yevgeny Prigozhin, an armed robbery in Brentwood. And today's closing money news. That's all on the way at the bottom of the hour on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right, thank you very much, Jay Harper. He's there in the newsroom today. In the control room, it's our good friend Chris Weber pushing all the blinky buttons, and I am your friend and radio buddy, Brian Wilson, in the chair and on the air. The Republican National Committee has picked its place where they're going to hold the 2028 presidential nominating convention. Now, remember, we were up for the 2024. We were up for the one that was going to be in Milwaukee. I mean, we were right there in the mix of it. It was there for the asking, and then the stupid city council and city officials mucked it up. I mean, we had the thing in the bag. Everybody wanted to come to Nashville. Everybody thought it'd be great. And then, the Democrats got their nose out of joint and screwed the whole thing up. And so, that led to, a lot of things, including the fact that the state legislature came back and said, we're going to shut down and reduce the size of the Nashville Council. And they did that. And it was a bad blood moment between city officials and state officials, between Democrats and Republicans. The Democrats, pretty much screwed our chances to have it in 2024. It could have all been happening here. But they said, well, maybe we can still, make a good bid for 2028. And once again, we were in the mix with Miami, Florida, and Houston. And the announcement today from Ronna McDaniel, who is the chairman of the RNC, is that Houston will be the host city. Yeah. I don't know. It's just not. I love my Gatlin brothers. I love that song, but let's just do what we have to do here to get that to stop. Thank you. They're going to go to Houston. Who in the hell wants to go to Houston in the middle of the summer for a convention? I mean, I think Nashville was still the better choice. You don't want to go to Miami in the middle of the summer. You don't want to go to Houston in the middle of the summer. You want to go to Nashville, Tennessee. That's where you want to be in the middle of the summer. But I think that the thing that happened with the 2024 situation left a very bad taste in the mouth of the RNC officials. It was, I think, probably too much for them to overcome. But they're going to go to Houston. So we got Milwaukee. I mean, who in the heck wants to go to Milwaukee? I mean, you say, well, we got a choice here. You got a choice in Milwaukee or Nashville. That's a pretty easy choice. Let's go to Party Central. Let's go to Nashville. They know how to treat people right. They are ready to take on. We've already done huge events that show that we have the capability to do something like this. But it was this council and members of the city of Nashville who made it very difficult and tried to do everything they could to push Nashville out of contention. We're out of convention for 24. We're out of contention for 28. And and who knows if we'll get something later. Maybe when we get the new stadium built, they'll reconsider us. But this was ours. This could have so easily been ours. And the money that comes into this city, they walked away from millions and millions and millions of dollars because they got their nose out of joint with the idea of a bunch of Republicans coming to a Democrat-managed city. I'm so hacked at this. I will never forgive them for it. But I don't know that as much as I love Texas, I don't think I would ever want to go to Houston for a convention. I mean, you think the humidity is bad in Nashville. You try a hot summer day in Houston, it'll just about kill you. It's not where you want to be. 30 minutes now past the hour, 4 o'clock.
Good afternoon. It is 4:30, and I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. Plenty of sun, 101 degrees on Music Row. That heat advisory in effect until 7 o'clock tomorrow night. Currently, the heat index standing at 113 degrees. A full forecast, the latest traffic report, they're both upcoming. President Joe Biden today at Lake Tahoe on vacation, sidestepping a question about the nature of the plane crash in which Yevgeny Prigozhin was listed as a passenger. The president did say he's not shocked, however, that the plane crashed.
I find no surprise in what happened, but we're trying to nail down precisely.
An investigation is also underway after police say two unidentified suspects robbed a Brentwood jewelry store this morning at about 10:50. Two male suspects armed with handguns and wearing masks entered the American Jewelry Company on Franklin Road in Brentwood. That's according to police there. The men broke glass cases inside the store and stole merchandise. Thankfully, no one hurt in the robbery. The suspects, however, do remain at large. Now, with today's closing money news, here is Daria Albinger.
From ABC News, Wall Street. '27 and the S&P rose 29, and that puts a wrap on the first winning week for stocks in about a month. It's been said before, the financial markets hate uncertainty, especially when it comes to fiscal policy. And while investors may not exactly be thrilled with what Chair Jerome Powell said at the Fed's annual conference in Jackson Hole, at least they have a better idea of what to expect in the months to come. He says the central bank will proceed carefully when it comes to interest rates, but that at least one more increase is likely going to be needed to bring inflation to the 2% target rate. Instacart's latest offering, Stock. The online grocery shopping company has filed an IPO to trade on the NASDAQ under the ticker symbol CART.
That is the latest news, traffic and weather. There next. Jay Harper, WTN News.
Let's talk about EverSeal and explain exactly what it is. It's a sealant for outdoor wood and concrete. Now, it's actually been around forever, but it was mostly used for many, many years in industrial applications. The folks at EverSeal figured out a way to make it something you could use on your home and business, something you could actually afford. The process starts by deep cleaning all the way through your wood and concrete to bring it back and make it look as new as it possibly can. And then once that is accomplished, they use their patented sealant, which will absorb all the way through the wood and concrete to become a permanent part of your wood and concrete, and it will prevent any further deterioration for the next 30 to 50 years. Think about how much money you could save. I mean, how often do you seal your deck? About once a year, every 2 years maybe? Listen, I'm telling you, most people do it every year, and if you're doing it once, twice, 5 times, 10 times, think of the money if you just had to do it one time and then you could forget about it for 30 years or better. I mean, doesn't that make a lot of sense? Of course it does. Many homeowners report paying the same for a superior seal that lasts a lifetime. But you can save it, you can seal it once and be done. Listen, if this sounds like something you want, reach out to Steve Nelson and the team at EverSeal. Here's the number, 844-EVER-USA. Learn more at ever-seal.com. It is 38 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock, and you know what we do on Fridays at this time? That's right. It's a little thing we like to call Fone Ur Farb Friday. You know the number, 615-737-9986. This is your opportunity to get whatever it is that's on your chest off your chest. I mean, maybe you have a bee in your bonnet. Maybe you have a burr under your saddle. Maybe you have a bug in a place where, well, honestly, I hope you never, ever have a bug. Just step up on our 100,000-watt soapbox and express yourself within boundaries because it is a family show. Maybe you want to take umbrage with something you've heard. Maybe you want to add to some conversation you had the other day and you just didn't have a chance to call in. 615-737-9986. We got a lot of phone lines open, and this is always fun. Get your thoughts together. Come at me. It's all right. You got a question? Try to stump the chump. That's okay, too. 615-737-9986. We are ready to start with Aubrey in Murfreesboro. Aubrey, good afternoon. You're on with Brian on the Drive. What's on your mind today, Aubrey?
Okay, Brian, yesterday whenever I called and I was talking about the debate, I wanted to finish up by saying I did not think that any of the people on stage were good vice president picks, much less president picks. Mm-hmm. My pick for vice president and saying that President Trump will be the nominee, I think it should be Representative Byron Donalds out of Florida. The only thing would be is they both live in Florida, so one of them's going to have to get another residence, and I think that would be President Trump because I think that's why he's been spending a lot of time at Bedminster.
Yeah, I mean, that could be. That could leave open his options. He could, declare any of his properties as his homestead, I suppose. But yeah, that's good. Byron Donald, good guy. Look, I think Republicans have a very deep bench. When it comes to vice presidents, though, I note that Trump said after the debate that he really liked Ramaswamy, which apparently a lot of our viewers of the debate liked. We did sort of a little focus group yesterday on that, and got a lot of people who said nope. I like Ramaswamy. I don't know what's going to happen. My thinking was he probably would go with Kari Lake. I think they're two peas in the pod. But I also think that maybe Kristi Noem is somebody he might be considering. Kristi Noem, stayed out of the race, but has heightened her profile. I mean, have you seen these ads of her as a plumber or an electrician or welding? I think I can tell you, I have a welder that I call on. His name is Cornbread. He doesn't look anything like Kristi Noem. I can just tell you that. Phone line's open. Let's get after it. 615-737-9986. Justin in Old Hickory, you're up next on the Drive. Justin, I'm sorry. We're still working on that one. Let's go to Lori in Brentwood. We'll come back to Justin in a moment. Lori, you're on with Brian on the Drive. What do you say, Lori? Hey, Lori. Are you there, Lori? All right, Rusty in Murfreesboro, you're up next on the Drive. Rusty, what do you say? You're on with Brian.
I want to tell the people of the world and your listening area, I think it's a shame the way they're treating President Trump. And they look at the taxpayers' money that they're blowing just to prove a point. And I believe he'll be elected the next president of the United States. And none of those Republicans that are running, especially Mike Pence, I wouldn't vote for him if he was running for dog catcher. And I don't think any, as I said yesterday, I don't think anybody on that stage is likely to, be the nominee. When you're 30 and 40 points ahead of everybody in most every poll, that's pretty hard to overcome. It looks like we're headed for the nomination of Donald Trump. But go ahead and finish your point. So would like to hear you play the soundbite sometime. If you remember, Nancy Pelosi said stupid, lazy Joe Biden would be the next president, and she knew that she had that election rigged. And you got that sound bite. You need to play it every now and then. She said
All right.
Joe Biden would be the next president.
All right. Thank you, Rusty. Greatly appreciate the call. Carrie, calling in from Nashville. Carrie, you're on with Brian on the drive. What do you say, Carrie?
Hey, so I just want to tell you that I so agree with you that Ramaswamy is a snake. He picked.
I never said he was a snake. I just said I thought he was a little too slick.
That.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm saying I agree with you that he is not the right pick. I'm saying that he's a snake as he goes back and forth with the way he sways on different things. And I do think Carrie Lake is probably the...
Oh, we lost you. Carrie Lake is the person you think will actually be the nominee. That'll be interesting. All right. Thank you, Carrie. Apparently having a little cell phone trouble out there. 615-737-9986. We got a lot of phone lines here ready to go. Let's go back up to Justin in Old Hickory. Justin, you're up next on the drive. What do you say, Justin?
Well, how's it going, Mr. Wilson? Happy Friday to you. I want to know why no one's making a big deal about the fact that FEMA's not doing anything really for the people of Maui. During COVID, we sent the big, med ship and all this extra aid and everything. And Tide set up, laundry washing places, and they set up commercials and all this stuff. But it's like our own homeland is torched, and all they can do is send $700. Really?
It really is. It's really quite sad that look, here's what I draw from that, from my own experience, because I've covered a lot of disasters, hurricanes and tornadoes and earthquakes, and I've never covered a massive fire like this one, but I can only imagine. And what I would say to you is this. Every time I get on the scene of a major disaster, and reporters are incredibly good at getting to a place, pretty quickly, much quicker than the federal government gets there. And you know who's already there when we roll up? The Salvation Army and the Red Cross. I mean, they're there. So, if you want to do something that can help, then I just, from a personal standpoint, just a lot of years of observation, the Salvation Army, and the Red Cross are there, and they really do help people in a big way. Government giving $700 is ridiculous. When especially we're sending billions of dollars around the world, not just to Ukraine, but to, countries all over the world. We could do better by the people in Maui. But I will tell you, watch what happened in Maui and think about what if something horrible were to happen here, God forbid. You can't count on government. You're going to have to count on your friends and your neighbors and what you have done to prepare. So don't be caught unprepared. Do what you have to do to make sure that you can take care of you and yours. That's what I would say. That's the lesson, I think, of when we see these disasters. Government, at best, is going to take 5 days to get there and get started. Now we're some 15 days, I think, since the thing happened. And they still really haven't gotten it going in any big direction. Your government, your federal government, is not where you need to turn. You need to make sure that you can take care of you. Bill in Hendersonville. Bill, you're on with Brian on the drive. What do you say, Bill?
Hey, Brian. Thanks a lot for taking my call, man. I'm sitting down on the dock here in Hendersonville and been out in the sun about 3 hours, and it's really nice. Might fry me up. Hey, listen, man, don't you think Nome, this isn't what I wanted to talk about, but don't you think Nome is getting a lot of free publicity using herself in those? I was thinking about, for future references and stuff.
Oh, yeah. I think she's out there just reminding people, I'm Kristi Noem, and I'm the governor of South Dakota, and I'm here.
Yeah, for the president and future and stuff you talking about?
Maybe, or for running mate. I think she would be a good running mate. She's a good governor, by the way, and an attractive candidate in all meanings of that word. Okay. And she's got a good track record there in South Dakota. That's for sure too.
I didn't want to get off on her. Excuse me, man. Hey, listen, don't you think it's over with I mean, I'm as devout as anybody, but they have all the media and they're doing these things, and people I talk to, they don't even know. They think these are legitimate charges and everything, man. And I mean, you forgot the $400 million from Zuckerberg, and all the way back down to Strzok and Page and all those people that never paid anything, Comey and everything. He can't govern. He can get elected, but there's no way he can govern because they won't. The CIA, the NSA, they won't have it. And we, in our country as we know it and have known it, is over because black prosecutors from Soros, they don't respect our Constitution or the rules, man. And I mean, they never will. They're taught them to. They say it openly, man. So
we need to win. The way that you overturn all that is to win a lot of elections. I mean, to win, the White House and the House and the Senate, and then start working down market races, because the down market races do often, get some kind of benefit during a presidential year. And so if we have a huge turnout and an overwhelming vote for Trump, there's a lot of people who could be lifted in a position to do away with that. You're right. The deep state is real. I used to sort of laugh about that, but I am not laughing now. I mean, the evidence is everywhere. The deep state is real and it's difficult. But I still think he has the potential to do a lot of good there by putting good people in charge of, the Department of Justice, getting rid of the leaders of the FBI and revamping that whole thing. But we got to win elections, and that's the thing we got to focus on next. Let's get, how about Cedric in Kentucky? Cedric, you're on with Brian on the Drive. What do you say?
Yeah, Brian, I've been around, been in politics about 35 years. I'm almost 65 years old, and I've seen a lot happen and go on. President Trump's a good president, and I believe he can turn this country around. But I'm going to tell you now you'll see what I'm talking about. Before the end of next year, or before the end of this year, you're going to see a big turnaround. You're going to see some strange things starting to happen and a lot of money being spent. And I'm going to say now you remember this call, that Gavin Newsom and Hillary Clinton is popping back up again. Yeah. But her and Gavin Newsom is going to wind up taking that White House and in 2024.
Well, I think Hillary Clinton's time.
That's just my opinion.
I appreciate that, Cedric. I think Hillary Clinton is out. I don't think she's, she still thinks she can win, but she's about the only person. She's the most unlikable candidate ever. I think her time on the stage is done. Gavin Newsom, if he somehow is able to wrestle the nomination away from Joe Biden, or if Joe Biden somehow, is not able to answer the bell one way or the other, it'll be interesting. It will be very interesting. I don't know exactly how it's going to play out. The thing is, I mean, you talk about crazy things happening late this year. There's crazy things happening every day right now. That's where we are. All right, we're going to leave it right there. Great round of calls. We'll do this again in 1 hour. If you didn't get through, call back at 5:35, and we'll do another round of Fone Ur Farb Friday. It is 51 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock. How are you faring in the rough and tumble market? The experts at Beacon Capital Management. I understand it can be a little scary, but here's the thing. Beacon Capital Management has a plan to assess where you are and help you make any mid-course corrections that might be needed. Wouldn't it be great to have peace of mind that you're on the right path? Well, Beacon can provide you that reassurance. It starts with a simple phone call. Here's the number, 615-488-9303. I mean, you call the experts at Beacon, they will take it from there. They'll ask you the questions, get you started. What do you have to lose except for all the worry? You'll be able to rest easy knowing that you have a plan that meets all your retirement goals. Replace the worry with confidence you're on the right path. Call this number again, 615-488-9303. I'm going to read it one more time, 615-488-9303. The experts at Beacon stand ready to take your stress away. Learn more at askbeaconnow.com.
Hey folks, I'm Paul Winkler. One of the things I've been hearing a lot from people lately is the concern about the dollar crashing. And you'll see this out there on the internet all over the place, articles written about it. And the idea is that the Russian and Chinese, those countries are looking at getting together and creating their own currency that will compete against the US dollar as a reserve currency. Now, for many, many decades, there have been other currencies that have been trying to vie for that status. And there's a possibility that you're going to have some that are going to encroach on that a little bit. But is it that big of a thing to worry about? Well, number one, last year the Chinese currency made up very little of any kind of world trade, number one. But what is it that's really going on underneath the surface? A lot of it is trying to sell you newsletters and investments that you probably ought to stay away from. For example, one of the things I see is, well, you ought to buy gold because the dollar's going to crash. And you see all of these commercials out there, and I say, well, wait a minute, wait. They're trying to get you to buy gold with your what? They're looking to take your dollars. If they really believe what they're saying, why would they take your dollars for their gold? Number one. Number two, how do you protect yourself against these valuation changes in various currencies? Well, let me explain it this way. Let's say that you had a currency called the clam. Okay, and you had a country that had one clam and you could exchange it for $1 at any one point in time. Let's say that that's the case. And you had a widget that was sold by this country and you could buy that widget in that country for one clam. So you take your $1, you exchange it for a clam, and then you got your widget. Now what if the dollar weakens? Well, what happens, now this clam is the same, right? Nothing different here. It's the same deal. But instead of $1, now it takes $2 to get the clam. Now, what happened? Your widget just doubled in price from your perspective as an American. Well, how do we use this to our advantage? As an investor, we want to make sure that we don't just myopically only focus on U.S. stocks. And that's a big mistake investors made from 2000 through 2010 and other periods in history, in the 1970s, the late 1980s, and so on and so forth. What we want to do is we want to make sure that we have good international diversification, because if the dollar weakens, then those international investments go up in value. So it's very, very important to know how globally diversified you really are as an investor. You want to learn more? Call us up for a free 15-minute consultation at paulwinkler.com, and we'll walk you through what we do and see if we can be of help to you, the investor out there that is so often being sold things that they really don't need to be buying.
Good afternoon. It's exactly 5 p.m., and I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. We've got sun and plenty of it. 101 degrees on Music Row with a heat advisory in effect until 7 o'clock tomorrow night. The current heat index standing at 113 degrees. A complete forecast and the latest traffic, they're on the way. All 19 co-defendants in the Georgia election racketeering case have met the midday Friday deadline set by Fulton County DA Fone Willis to turn themselves in. ABC News national correspondent Steve Portnoy has more on what's in store for the former president and those that are charged with him.
Important hearings are ahead on Monday. In Atlanta, a federal judge will listen to arguments on Mark Meadows' attempt to have the charges against him moved to federal court. If Meadows prevails, Fulton County DA Fone Willis would have to argue the case against Meadows before a broader Georgia jury pool in a separate courthouse. Here in D.C. on Monday, Judge Tanya Chutkin will hear arguments over the timing of the federal January 6th trial. Prosecutors say it should begin early next year, but Trump's attorneys say it shouldn't start until the spring of 2026.
After his workout during his vacation in South Lake Tahoe, California, President Biden today did speak to reporters briefly on a range of topics, including former President Trump, the Republican primary debate, and that plane crash in Russia. ABC News' Karen Travers, she has details.
President Biden told reporters he saw former President Trump's mugshot on television. Asked what he thought of it, the president said,
Handsome guy. Wonderful guy.
The president said he did not have a, quote, interest or an inclination to watch Trump's interview with Tucker Carlson on Wednesday night. He did say he watched about an hour and 20 minutes of the Republican primary debate and that he, quote, didn't learn much.
I don't remember them speaking to any of the issues.
The city of Chicago alleges that a surge in car thefts and other crime is a result of the actions of two car makers. Here's Brian Clark with ABC News.
Chicago says entry-level Kias and Hyundais not having engine immobilization devices mean that lower and middle-income residents are disproportionately affected by an increase in vehicle theft. These claims were made in a lawsuit filed against the car makers Thursday. The city says Kia and Hyundai thefts have made up more than half of all reported this year in Chicago. Both car makers, in response, laid out steps they're taking to reduce the risk of theft.
A DeKalb County student was arrested this morning after authorities found that he wrote a text threatening to shoot someone at his school because he was upset about a test. That's according to the sheriff's office there in the county. DeKalb County high school student Austin Ray Light, 18 years of age, was charged with threatening an act of mass violence against the school. That was reported in a media release by the sheriff there, Patrick Ray. That is the latest news, traffic, and that hot forecast. They're on the way. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
65 north at Rosa Parks Rec, 40 west at Spence Lane, Myatt at Anderson, and over at Briley Parkway at 40 west here, and Murfreesboro Pike east of the Runaway Tunnel here around B&A, an accident. Nolensville Pike at Brewer Drive wreck.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. We're halfway through the Friday edition of The Drive. I just want to mention that coming up at 5:35, second round of Fone Ur Farb Friday, where you get to, express yourself, whatever's on your mind, and we'd love to have you participate in that. So be getting your best question or your best statement ready, within boundaries, of course. It is a family show, and we'll do that again at 5:35. I want to start off this hour by talking about, the Biden investigation. And, of course, let's also talk about what happened yesterday with Donald Trump. I mean, I don't know. What do you want? You want to hear Biden first, Trump second? I think I'll start with Biden. The Oversight Committee continues to investigate Joe Biden. And I think that what's going to happen, this is my personal opinion, is that when Congress comes back after the August recess, there's going to be a little test. And the test is going to be, hey, we need certain documents, let's say from the Department of Justice or the FBI or something like that. And if the FBI says, you know what, we can't give that to you, because, there's a special counsel now, don't you? I mean, you know that, right? Well, we're just not going to be able to give it to you while there's a special counsel. If that is the answer, Kevin McCarthy says they will move directly to sort of a investigative technique known as the impeachment inquiry, which is sort of like an investigation on steroids, a congressional investigation on steroids. Gives you a lot more power to subpoena, and I think they'll move right to that. Now, that's not the beginning of an impeachment proceeding, but I think that is likely to be the thing that happens. So we're going to be watching real close to see how that all works out. And then the investigation is continuing. And I love this story that I found in Breitbart today. And it really comes from the Oversight Committee. Joe Biden lied at least 16 times about family business. I mean, he's a lying liar who lies. Either he is so brain dead that he doesn't remember, which I don't buy, or he's just doing everything he can. He'll just look you straight in the eye and die. I mean, when he was on the debate stage up against Trump, he said, hey, that laptop is a Russian disinformation. He knew full well that wasn't the case. He knew that was a made-up thing. But he just looked at the American people, looked them straight in the eye, and lied because it was convenient to do so. So here are, let me run through some of these, 16 instances where Joe Biden has lied, and we know it's a lie. August 28th, Joe Biden said the following. First of all, I've never discussed with my son or my brother or anyone else anything having to do with their business, period. What I will do is the same thing we did in our administration. There will be an absolute wall between the personal and private in the government. There wasn't any hint of scandal at all when we were there, and I'll impose the same kind of strict rules. That's why I've never talked about with my son or my brother or anyone else in the distant family about their business interest, period. Lie. That's an absolute lie. September 21st of 2019. Reporter, have you ever spoken to your son about his overseas business dealings? I have never spoken to my son about his overseas business dealings. October 4th, 2019. Excuse me, there's a photo of you golfing with your son Hunter and his business partner, Devin Archer. Do you stand by your statement that you did not discuss any of your son's overseas business dealings? Joe Biden, yes, I stand by that statement. Most of these, by the way, questions are being asked by Peter Doocy. October 9th, 2019. Joe Biden, I don't discuss business with my son. I didn't know that was the case when I found out after the fact. And I don't discuss things with my son or my family because I don't want to have any knowledge of any. I don't want to be accused of, well, you talk to your son, you talk to whomever. It's almost incoherent what he's trying to say. October 15th, 2019. I've never discussed a single thing with my son about anything having to do with Ukraine. Well, he was on the plane to Ukraine. Has anyone indicated I have? We've always kept everything separate. It goes on. I mean, there's October 16th, October 27th, October 29th of 2019. Let's move up a little bit. April 5th of 2022. To Jen Psaki. The president has said he never spoke to his son about his overseas business dealing. Is that still the case? Jen Psaki, yes. June 26, 2023. Did you lie about it, never speaking to Hunter Biden about his business dealings? President Biden, no. There was actually an exclamation mark. No. August 9th of 2023, just the other day. Let's see. Reporter, there is this testimony now where one of your son's former business associates is claiming that you were on a speakerphone with a lot of them talking business. Is that what? I never talked business with anybody. I knew you'd have a lousy question. March 20th of 2023. Any reaction to the House GOP memo about your family dealings, revealing that Hunter Biden's business associates sent over $1 million to 3 of your family members? President Biden, that's not true. Well, it was true. I mean, look, we can go on and on and on, but I mean, you see the pattern here. He's going to lie every time he's asked about this, and we all know what is going on here. So many examples. The Biden impeachment could be coming, according to townhall.com, and we can thank Merrick Garland. The August recess is over, and House Republicans have no choice but to start impeachment proceedings against Joe Biden. They've been forced into this action, though one could argue it was veering into the realm of inevitability. Attorney General Merrick Garland can be thanked for setting this into motion with the appointment of David Weiss as special counsel for the Hunter Biden investigation. You see, let me just say something about Congress during the August recess. They come back home. They start talking to people back home. And they come back, and they are loaded with, they are angry because they have gotten an earful from the people back home. So I think that, in the House of Representatives is going to be a real movement to this. Let's go straight to impeachment here. But I think the impeachment inquiry is probably the next step that should be taken. The story continues. Weiss is the U.S. attorney who got blocked by higher up when he tried to file charges. He also allowed some of the most egregious tax violations to lapse under the statute of limitations. It's a fixed investigation that isn't considered a special counsel probe since Weiss isn't an outside arbiter. I'm not sure that he qualifies as an outside special counsel because he's remaining the U.S. attorney for the state of Delaware at the same time. So a lot of people are thinking that, there's going to be a heavy push from the House to begin impeachment. I don't rush it. Get all your ducks in a row. Make it an unassailable case that just makes it impossible for anybody to come to any other conclusion. Find that smoking gun. I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens when Congress comes back in a few days. President Trump yesterday was arraigned in Fulton County, and he had his mugshot taken. I looked at it and I said, I've seen that look before. That's the look my dad gave me when I used to misbehave at the dinner table. You know, he didn't have to say a word. I just got that look. He's angry. He's pissed. He's completely PO'd. And I think already they've taken that picture and they're trying to raise money with it. I mean, there are coffee cups and T-shirts and beer koozies. I mean, you know, whatever you want. It's got the picture of Donald Trump. They're not walking away from it. They're not walking away from it. Everybody knows on our side of the equation what this is. It's a bunch of nonsense. And I have Trump. This is exactly what he said as he departed and was about to get back on the plane to go back to Bedford, New Jersey. Donald Trump, after the arraignment.
You challenge an election, you should be able to challenge an election. I thought the election was a rigged election, a stolen election, and I should have every right to do that. As you know, you have many people that you've been watching over the years do the same thing, whether it's Hillary Clinton or Stacey Abrams or many others. When you have that great freedom to challenge, you have to be able to, otherwise you're going to have very dishonest elections. What has taken place here is a travesty of justice. We did nothing wrong. I did nothing wrong. And everybody knows it. I've never had such support. And that goes with the other ones, too. What they're doing is election interference. They're trying to interfere with an election. There's never been anything like it in our country before. This is their way of campaigning. And this is one instance, but you have three other instances. It's election interference. So I want to thank you for being here. We did nothing wrong at all. And we have every right, every single right, to challenge an election that we think is dishonest, that we think it's very dishonest. So thank you all very much, and I'll see you very soon. Thank you.
Well, there you go. I mean, and he got on Trump Force One and went back to Bedford. He was booked in the Fulton County Jail, and the booking document shows him as a white male, 6'3", 215 pounds. Okay, no, but nonetheless. With blonde or strawberry hair and blue eyes. His arraignment will be at a separate date, but he's been processed for this whole process. What a mess. I mean, 19 different defendants have had to go through this process and get their mug shot. You know, all this is Democrats playing politics. I think Trump is right. I mean, I honestly 1,000% believe he's completely right. He didn't do anything wrong, if I can tell. And I think that, you know, if you can get a fair hearing for some of these things, and I don't know that you can get a fair hearing in Fulton County, but, I mean, if you can get a fair hearing, a lot of these things will go away in the form of pretrial motions. Trump's attorneys will go in and say, you know, this is a weak element of the indictment. It doesn't hold water. It's his First Amendment right to talk about the things that he talked about. He's well within his rights to pick up the phone and call people and say, hey, what the hell's going on? I'm hearing some stories. You know, we're looking for 11,000 votes. So, you know, what's happening? Because we hear, you know, this isn't going right and this isn't going right. What's happening? What's happening? And, you know, in the chaos of the moment, they didn't have many answers. That's not an attempt to overturn an election. That's a man who has run for office who says, I have some concerns here. By the way, Stacey Abrams had those same concerns when she got beaten. Hillary Clinton had the same concerns when she got beaten. I mean, on the list of Democrats who have complained about how, you know, well, the election process was not fair is as long as my arm, and you know I have incredibly long arms. Monkey-like, actually. This is very weak stuff. And I think that ultimately, by the time the attorneys get through, if they can get fair hearings, a lot of this stuff is just going to go away. A lot of this stuff, by the time you actually get to trial, if there's anything left, I'd be surprised. It's now 20 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk. Let's talk about King and Associate Insurance in Brentwood, who they've been there for over 25 years as an independent agency. Now listen, I think that's a great advantage. You say, well, explain, Brian. Why do you feel that? Well, here it is. I mean, number one, as an independent agency, they can take care of you as an individual, not just an account number. I mean, if you're doing business on one of those, those national firms where you're just a number on a website and they take whatever insurance they have and they just cram it like a round peg into a square hole, that's not what they do over at T. King Insurance. Because they are an independent, they can shop around and find the very best. And you're going to get great customer service. I'm going to give you an example. If you were to call this number, and don't be afraid to do this, 615-329-8121, 615-329-8121, you won't reach a call center. You won't reach a recording. You won't reach somebody who says, please stand by. Your call is important to us. No, you'll get an actual person each and every time. They've got great rates, and, you can save a lot with multi-policy discounts, 20, 25, 30, 35%. So unless you're living in your car, you need more than 15 minutes. That's right. Get your royal review with King & Associates. Just log on to tkinginsurance.com. That's tkinginsurance.com. And you'll get the royal treatment and absolutely great rates.
Could more interest rate hikes be in our future? And sad news in the wake of a crash of an F-18 fighter that was on a training mission. I'll have those stories and more at 5:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Two or three stories that have national security implications. The Wagner mercenaries, having lost their leader, have threatened to bring revenge. Purported members of the Russian Wagner mercenary group released chilling videos threatening revenge, according to the New York Post, and a new march of justice on Moscow after their leader, Yevgeny Prigozhin, reportedly died in a fiery jet crash. Now, there have been many people who speculated whether it was shot down by a surface-to-air missile by the Russians who wanted to take Prigozhin out. And the president of the United States is not confirming that, saying we're trying to put all the pieces together. Let me just give you a little piece of advice, or a little piece of knowledge. There are satellites that we have aimed at the Russians that would tell us within seconds if a missile, even a small surface-to-air missile, was fired. We know if a missile was fired. And then we have the satellite capability to zoom right in on that and find out what in the heck was going on. So we have all of the technology that we need. And by the way, the Russians have the same thing aimed in our direction. I remember as being a young reporter, this happened many, many years ago, but I was a young reporter back when the old USSR was still in place. And I was in Amarillo, and there was a big prairie fire. And there was a phone call to the local sheriff's office near this little town out in the Texas Panhandle, out in the middle of nowhere, where not far from the prairie fire. And the dispatcher picked up the phone call, and there was this thick Russian accent that said, "This is Victor from the USSR. We are calling to ask if you know that there is a big fire near your house, near your town." And he said, yeah, we know about it. But who is this? Well, this is Victor with the USSR, and we have detected it with our technical means, and we know that there's a big fire. We just want to make sure you're aware of it. And they said, well, we're absolutely aware of it. And the guy says, okay, thank you very much. Also, must kill moose and squirrel.
I knew you were going to throw that in there.
But no, I mean, that's how sensitive these things are. They can pick up a surface-to-air missile, and they can pick up, the crash that happened afterwards. We just have that technology. Our technology is so amazingly good, you would be shocked, stunned, and amazed. China may have lost a nuclear attack submarine, and all hands may have been lost. This has been floating around for a couple days now. It's being denied by Taiwan and most outlets, but rumors are still swirling that a Chinese Type 093 Shang-class nuclear submarine is rumored to have suffered a serious accident in the Yellow Sea, according to a number of social media reports, and some reports claim the entire crew is dead. China's major state-controlled media outlets have been silent about the rumor, but this has been swirling for days now, and it sounds like there was a tragic loss of life by the Chinese nuclear attack sub, all hands lost. North Korea has attempted to put a spy satellite into orbit, and it has failed again. North Korea's attempt to launch a spy satellite into orbit this week ended in failure. The failed launch marks a second attempt by North Korea to send a spy satellite into orbit, after the first launch in May ended with the satellite crashing into the ocean. North Korea quickly acknowledged the second failed launch and vowed to make a third attempt in October. And so, will that happen? I don't think this thing happened by accident. I don't think that these launches are just abject failures by the North. Maybe because they're new at this kind of stuff, but they've figured out missile technology pretty well. Why did this thing not launch, not go into orbit? I think it's because we didn't want it to. Just my take on it. That's what I think. 30 minutes now, past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7.
It is 5:30. Yes, indeed, 5:30. And I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. We do have sun and a sweltering 101 degrees, a complete forecast, and the latest traffic. They're on the way. U.S. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell warns that additional interest rate hikes could be coming after observing signs that the economy may not be cooling off as expected. Here is Powell if they choose to do nothing.
Doing too little could allow above target inflation to become entrenched and ultimately require monetary policy to wring more persistent inflation from the economy at a high cost to employment. Doing too much could also do unnecessary harm to the economy.
The pilot of an F-18 fighter jet that went down in San Diego overnight is dead, according to sources.
A defense official tells ABC News a pilot aboard the F-18 did not survive. First responders reported the pilot had ejected, but sources tell us it's not clear if the pilot really did get out before the fighter jet hit the ground. He went down on military property near Marine Corps Air Station Miramar. It's a spot where it's routine to see fighter jets landing and taking off. The military will investigate the crash.
That's ABC's Alex Stone reporting. Another Army base received a new name today. Fort Walker is the new name of the military installation in Northern Virginia that was known as Fort A.P. Hill. The official redesignation honors Dr. Mary Walker, who treated Union soldiers during the Civil War. That is the latest news. We'll have traffic and weather next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Fone Ur Farb Friday straight ahead. Get on the line right now and get ready. In the meantime, let me tell you about the Nashville Armory Ranges, 2 locations for your convenience. The Nashville Armory is at 4290 Kenilwood Drive in Nashville, 15,000 square feet, which combines retail, classrooms, and, of course, pistol and rifle-rated ranges, so you can learn, you can become proficient, and you can stay that way. The second location, the Franklin Range at 390 Southwinds Drive. There you'll find 10 state-of-the-art shooting ranges equipped with automated target control and custom shooting stalls that provide a virtually private shooting experience. And the folks who work there, well, they pride themselves on hiring folks with the expertise to advise even the most experienced shooters, but they have the patience to guide those who are new to the 2A world. No attitude, no pressure. Gunsmithing back at the Nashville Range. If you're buying your first gun or adding to the collection, you'll find a wide selection of new and pre-owned firearms, suppressors, optics, apparel, and shooting accessories. It's the place to buy. It's the place to train. It's the place to become a really proficient shot. To learn more, go to armoryranges.com, and please let them know that your friend and radio buddy, Brian Wilson, sent you. It is 37 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy. And it's time once again for a little thing we like to call Fone Ur Farb Friday. Yeah, what's on your mind? 615-737-9986. Get on the hotline right there and express yourself. And tell me what you think. I mean, maybe you have a bee in your bonnet. Maybe you have a burr in your saddle. Maybe there's a bug in a place where you hope, honestly, I hope you never, ever have a bug. But nevertheless, you can step up on our 100,000-watt soapbox and express yourself within reason, because it is a family show. I mean, the other day, we had to use the red button, and we don't want to do that. I mean, the red button means that the people listening on the radio don't hear the word, but the people on the stream do.
That's true.
That's true. So, phone lines are open. We got about 3 phone lines open, and we got 3 people ready to go. So let's get after it. Sherry in Nashville, you're up with Brian on the drive. Hello, Sherry. What's on your mind today?
Well, I just want to make a statement. I think Biden going after Trump is comparable to Tanya Harding going after Nancy Kerrigan back in the day. She had to take out the better, she had to take out the better opponent by whacking her in the knees and disabling her, and I feel like that's what Biden is trying to do to Trump because he's the better opponent.
Well, do you think it's going to work?
Do what?
I said, do you think it will work?
Yeah, because that side is evil and they cheat. So, yeah.
All right, Sherry, thank you so much. Greatly appreciate it. Monica in White House. Hello, Monica. You're on with Brian on the drive. What's up with you today, Monica?
Well, Brian, I think I was that person yesterday that you were talking about, but I wasn't at the ready. And I just wanted to apologize and tell you I was I was making a reservation at a very loud and noisy restaurant.
No.
And I had waited a bit, but I just wanted to say thanks for giving me grace and thank you for all that you do to keep us informed and entertained in Nashville.
So you were making a reservation? Was the meal any good?
Oh, it was terrific.
Yeah. All right.
Texas Roadhouse in Hendersonville.
As long as you had a nice meal out of it. Sometimes I know, people we especially when we're going through commercial breaks and everything, people have been on the phone for a long time, and you may lose your focus, or you may end up listening to the radio and not on your phone. We want you to listen on the phone once you've been cleared, but it's okay, Monica, and appreciate the apology, and it's not necessary, but I'm glad that you're still with us, and thanks for that. Appreciate it.
Well, I just wanted to redeem myself.
Well, you've been redeemed. Don in Bellevue. By the way, got some phone lines open. Let's get after it, folks. 615-737-9986. Don in Bellevue, you're on with Brian. So tell me what's on your mind today, Don.
Well, thanks, Brian. First of all, would I tell all our listeners, please quit using the word progressives. They're liberals. Second of all, Brian, you can explain this to people because you're a veteran of the swamp. But everybody, all the liberal networks keep referring to Weiss as a Trump-appointed prosecutor.
Well, that
he was, yeah. Now,
no, go ahead.
As you know, he was basically appointed by the 2 Democratic senators from Delaware.
That's right.
Harper and Coons. Okay.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And you might explain to the audience how that works. The Senate has some funny rules about it. And my third point, real quick, back when Reagan was president, he appointed the Grace Commission, and they were made up of CFOs from major corporations to go through the budget line by line and identify waste, duplication, what could be cut. And I wish one of the candidates running for president would promise to appoint a commission like that.
Well,
I'm listening. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead, Brian.
I want a commission that will revamp the FBI. They did that many years ago after J. Edgar Hoover passed away. there was a special commission. The name of it escapes me at the moment. But they went through and did a complete commission and a revamp of the FBI. I think it's time for that again. I really do. I think it's time to completely revamp the FBI. I'm beginning to like the idea of having a non-centralized leadership and have, a lot of the leadership pushed out to different parts of the country. I don't know. It seems like, that's probably not going to happen. But I really do think that we need a complete revamping. There are good people in the FBI, and there are some people that you just need to root out and get rid of. And we need to set very strict rules with real ramifications if you violate certain rules. But thank you for that. I greatly appreciate it. I think as far as the special prosecutor goes, here's the deal. Senators make a nomination, and there are 2 Democrat senators from the state of Delaware. They make a recommendation, and the president almost always, by tradition, goes with the recommendation that has been made. Not always, but goes with the recommendation that's been made by the 2 senators. The senators have a lot of power in that process. So he was appointed, he may have been appointed by Trump, but he was picked, and the nominee was put forward by the 2 Democrat senators of the state of Delaware. And Weiss has apparently has some connections to the Biden family. You can't be in Delaware. Somebody put it, Delaware's like a small town. And so, everybody knows everybody. And Weiss and other people on his staff apparently had a lot of connections with the Biden family over the years. And it just smells bad. Honestly, I don't have any confidence. I have zero confidence in Weiss's ability to actually investigate this thing, because this is the same guy who, let the worst charges against Trump lapse. That's insane. Let's see. Let's go up to Linda in Hendersonville. Linda, you're on with Brian on the drive. What do you say, Linda?
Hey, Brian, thank you for taking my call. I just wondered, and I know the answer to this, but I just think it's really stupid. Why are they calling that woman in Georgia Fannie instead of Fanny?
I don't know. I've been going with Fanny, like Take a Load Off Fanny. Remember that song? Yeah. But I have heard that she prefers the pronunciation Fawny.
Well, of course she does.
Yeah.
Wait, if your name was Fanny, wouldn't you want it to be Fawny?
There's nothing funny about Fanny as a name, is there?
No, there isn't.
I hope is that the Trump legal team beats the crap out of the Fanny. I'm telling you that. That's what I hope. But thank you for the call, Linda. I'm probably going to get in trouble for that one. How about Barry in Lebanon? Barry, you're on with Brian on the drive. Barry, what's on your mind today?
Yes, sir. I'm just basically agreeing with you that the FBI needs to be cleaned out, and what they're doing to Trump is just ridiculous. And I had a question for you when it comes to voting.
Okay.
If something was to happen that they took Trump off of the ballot, can people write him in?
I think yes, you can write anybody in. That's a thing that could happen. Yeah, I believe you could. Yeah. I don't know. I can't foresee how this whole thing is going to unfold. I've been sitting here thinking about, the coming election and where are we going to be in February during the Iowa caucuses, and as we move through the primary season and we get to March and Super Tuesday, and which is where Tennessee gets to cast its ballot. How's this all going to play out, and where are these cases and these trials going to be? I think they're going to be pushed off beyond the election, most of them. And I honestly believe that there's some 91 different counts that have been leveled against Trump. And I think by the time his lawyers get through, probably a whole bunch of those are going to be, done away with. I don't think they'll be there. I think they will be dismissed in pretrial motions or in appeals. So we'll see how that all goes. One way or the other, we are in uncharted territory both with where Joe Biden is. He could well be impeached. There could be an impeachment inquiry. He could be impeached, and then they have to take a vote in the Senate, which I don't think they would convict him one way or the other. He's going to be facing that, and Trump is going to go through some legal things between now and then. We're just going to have to. We just got to watch it as it comes, because I don't know anybody who can predict how this is all going to play out. I can't, but I do believe Trump will be the nominee, and I do believe that. I'm sticking with it. I don't think Joe Biden will be the Democrat nominee. I don't, but we'll see. But thank you, Barry. Thanks for the call. Richard in Lawrenceburg, you're on with Brian on the Drive. Hello, Richard.
Hello, Brian. Thanks. Hey, by the way, my grandmother's name Fanny.
Oh, really?
But yes, and she nothing like this one. Hey, I got a couple of comments. I think Chris Christie is a deep state plant. I think Democrats made the donations enough to get him on the stage. That's the only way I think he got in the debate. And just a couple of other comments. I think this is terrible election interference. What's going on, and some of the candidates were talking about not looking back at 2020. If we don't recognize, if they don't realize what happened in 2020, it'll happen this time and every time going forward. Mm-hmm. This may be our last chance, and yeah, I don't think. Go ahead.
You know what I'm afraid of is, and I think people have a, and we're beginning to pick up on this. I think that there are a lot of people right now who are conservatives and Republicans or libertarians who lean in a conservative way. I think there's a great deal of fatigue right now. They're just worn down to a nub by the stuff that goes on. And the drip, 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 and the unfairness of it all. It's to the point where so many people are just throwing up their hands and going, I don't know. I just can't take it anymore. I don't listen to the news. And you cannot do that. You cannot check out. And we need to talk to people about this. You cannot check out of this process. There's too much at stake. Don't give up now. We've got to get everybody motivated. And I don't want to hear about fatigue, and I don't want to hear about I don't listen to the news because I just can't take it anymore. Grow up. This is an election. There's a lot at stake here. We've all got to be in the game. We've all got to be in the game. All right, quickly, Stephen on the road. Stephen, you're on with Brian on the Drive. What do you say, Stephen?
Brian, first of all, I want to say thank you so much. I love your show. And I know she's not listening, but I want to reach out to Fanny in Georgia and say thank you for helping fund Trump's legal issues and his campaign. Did they not realize what this mugshot is going to do for him?
There are a few who get it. There are a few Democrats on the others who think that all of this is just it does nothing but make him stronger. We like to talk about Trump as if he is Obi-Wan Kenobi.
If you strike me down, I shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine.
And I think that's what happened. You just keep throwing rocks at him, and it just makes him stronger. It is 50 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock. Grace Point Healthcare delivers medicine affordably with menu-style transparent pricing so you'll know how much it will cost before the care is delivered. Smart Care plans start at $69 a month. You get unlimited office visits, free basic labs for the entire year, and because we treat the entire family, even newborns, they offer family plans as well. In conjunction with a high-deductible insurance plan, this could save you and your family hundreds of dollars. At Grace Point, they take their time with each patient. They see you the same or next day. There are no long wait times or crowded wait rooms. They treat naturally whenever possible. It is a military vet-owned practice. Just some of the reasons why it's been voted the best primary care provider by Toasty Music City year after year after year. Grace Point is on Main Street in Franklin. That's Main Street on Franklin, and here's the number. Write it down, 599-6868. That's 599-6868 to schedule a visit.
Hey folks, I'm Paul Winkler. One of the things I've been hearing a lot from people lately is the concern about the dollar crashing. And you'll see this out there on the internet all over the place, articles written about it. And the idea is that the Russian and Chinese, those countries are looking at getting together and creating their own currency that will compete against the US dollar as a reserve currency. Now, for many, many decades, there have been other currencies that have been trying to vie for that status. And there's a possibility that you're going to have some that are going to encroach on that a little bit. But is it that big of a thing to worry about? Well, number one, last year the Chinese currency made up very little of any kind of world trade, number one. But what is it that's really going on underneath the surface? A lot of it is trying to sell you newsletters and investments that you probably ought to stay away from. For example, one of the things I see is, well, you ought to buy gold because the dollar's going to crash. And you see all of these commercials out there, and I say, well, wait a minute, wait. They're trying to get you to buy gold with your what? They're looking to take your dollars. If they really believe what they're saying, why would they take your dollars for their gold? Number one. Number two, how do you protect yourself against these valuation changes in various currencies? Well, let me explain it this way. Let's say that you had a currency called the clam. Okay, and you had a country that had one clam and you could exchange it for $1 at any one point in time. Let's say that that's the case. And you had a widget that was sold by this country and you could buy that widget in that country for one clam. So you take your $1, you exchange it for a clam, and then you got your widget. Now what if the dollar weakens? Well, what happens now, this clam is the same, right? Nothing different here. It's the same deal. But instead of $1, now it takes $2 to get the clam. Now, what happened? Your widget just doubled in price from your perspective as an American. Well, how do we use this to our advantage? As an investor, we want to make sure that we don't just myopically only focus on U.S. stocks. And that's a big mistake investors made from 2000 through 2010 and other periods in history, in the 1970s, the late 1980s, and so on and so forth. What we want to do is we want to make sure that we have good international diversification, because if the dollar weakens, then those international investments go up in value. So it's very, very important to know how globally diversified you really are as an investor. You want to learn more? Call us up for a free 15-minute consultation at paulwinkler.com, and we'll walk you through what we do and see if we can be of help to you, the investor out there that is so often being sold things that they really don't need to be buying.
Good afternoon. It is 6 p.m., and I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. The weekend forecast and the latest traffic report, they're on the way. Tens of thousands of customers in Michigan and Ohio, they remain without power following a line of severe storms and tornadoes that moved through the area overnight. In Kent County, Michigan, Zach Comer, he rode out the storm in his truck as trees and utility poles were falling down all around him.
My wife said, "Oh my God." And we looked forward, and the telephone lines, everything was just completely uprooted and gone. And then our truck started to shake, and we just kind of covered up, hoping that it would be okay.
Officials say it's going to take quite some time to complete the cleanup in those areas, and no word on when power will be restored. After giving in a workout in South Lake Tahoe, California during his vacation, well, it was President Biden who spoke to reporters briefly on a range of topics, including former President Trump, the Republican primary debate, and the plane crash in Russia. Here's ABC's Karen Travers with details.
President Biden told reporters he saw former President Trump's mugshot on television. Asked what he thought of it, the president said,
"Handsome guy, wonderful guy."
The president said he did not have a, quote, interest or an inclination to watch Trump's interview with Tucker Carlson on Wednesday night. He did say he watched about an hour and 20 minutes of the Republican primary debate and that he, quote, didn't learn much.
I don't remember them speaking to any of the issues.
The city of Chicago alleges that a surge in car thefts and other crime is a result of the actions of two car makers. Brian Clark with ABC. He has details on the lawsuit.
Chicago says entry-level Kias and Hyundais not having engine immobilization devices mean that lower and middle-income residents are disproportionately affected by an increase in vehicle theft. These claims were made in a lawsuit filed against the car makers Thursday. The city says Kia and Hyundai thefts have made up more than half of all reported this year in Chicago. Both car makers, in response, laid out steps they're taking to reduce the risk of theft.
Closer to home, an investigation currently underway after police say two unidentified suspects robbed a Brentwood jewelry store this morning at about 10:50 in the morning. Two male suspects armed with handguns and wearing masks entered the American Jewelry Company on Franklin Road in Brentwood. That's according to Brentwood police. The men broke glass cases inside the store and did steal merchandise. Thankfully, no one injured in the robbery. The suspects do remain at large. Well, that's your newscast. That's the latest. We've got traffic and weather. They're on the way. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
It is 6 minutes past the hour on this Friday the 25th, and starting to cool down a little bit. I've got 93 here in bucolic Watertown, but at one point today we had a feel-like temperature of at least 110 in Nashville. We got into the triple digits, I think, pretty certainly today. So hopefully you're in your car. You've got the AC set on high. I love that little button, Max AC. I'm really in favor of that button.
This kind of weather is crank it up and rip the knob off.
That's right. I mean, all you want is all the cold you can get.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I hope that you have made it through this very sweltering week, and that you're now going to head home and, put your feet up, maybe have an adult beverage.
Ooh.
Out by on the back porch. Not on the back porch. It's still too hot.
That's too hot for that.
Yeah. Just sit in the air conditioning.
Right
Take
underneath
your shirt,
it. Yeah.
Yes, take your shirt off. It's okay. We are in the last hour of our show on Friday as we wrap the week up and hand it over here in just a little while to Mark Levin. So I've got a whole bunch I'm just all over the place in this last segment. We're going to slap some stuff together, but I think it's all stuff that you're going to find interesting. The residents of Maui, Lahaina, Maui, are really hurting, and Maui is rapidly becoming. The problem is it's so far out there that reporters don't stick around very long. I mean, when you have something that happens in New Orleans, it's very easy for news organizations to get camera crews and stuff into New Orleans, and that Katrina became a problem for George W. Bush, although I think ultimately, at the end of the day, if you want to know what went wrong in Katrina, it wasn't George W. Bush. It was the governor and the mayor who couldn't make up their mind what they wanted to do. You have to understand, federal resources can't come in unless they're invited in. And there was never an invitation. And the whole thing in Katrina really was a mess. But in Maui, it's pretty cut and dried. A good portion of the island is ash, and 115 people have died. Now there's a list out that they're trying to yesterday there was some talk about maybe 1,100 people that have not been located. They put out a list of 338 people, and they're trying to make sure that people will check the list and say, oh no, I'm on that list, but I'm okay, and so they can sort of limit the number of people that ultimately they're continuing to look for. But it's that kind of chaos. And Joe Biden's got a real problem because it seems to me FEMA is holed up at the most exclusive hotel, 4-star hotel, maybe 5-star hotel in all of Maui. That's where they're operating out of. While everybody out there is out there in Lahaina is, just like they got no home, they got no car. Everything that they have has been burned to a crisp, and the island residents have just about had enough. This soundbite sort of sums it up.
Today, I haven't had any money come in. I haven't had anybody call me back. I didn't have anything. I have no idea. I lost my house. I lost my car. I lost my animals. I mean, come on, man. We're not getting anything. Till today, I still didn't get my meds. I cannot get my meds yet. My medicine was all burnt in my house. My rent money was all burnt in my house. I have no money anymore. I think Joe Biden should take his $700 and get back on the fucking nail and go home. That's what I think. Because $700 compared to all the millions he's giving to Ukraine, why? We need it. That's why we don't understand why. We're citizens and we cannot get money. But if they're not citizens, they get gazillions of dollars from the USA. Where's our government? Fix your house before you fix somebody else's house.
Is this how, your community, other Hawaiians, locals, indigenous people, is that how they feel, pretty much how you feel?
Everybody feels that way. Come on. That's why the local people stick together and we help our own people because we know the outside people are not going to do it.
Well, you know what? She's got a good point. The government hands you a $700 check. Worthless. Let me just say to you, worthless. If you're in the middle of a disaster where everything you have has been burned to a crisp, and they hand you a check. Where do you go to cash it? How do you get cash? Because you need cash to operate in a situation like that. And she's right. We get $700 for people who have lost everything, and yet you look across the way and we're giving billions to Ukraine. We send billions and billions and billions of dollars in foreign aid all over the world. But when one of our people needs help, they got a paltry little $700 check. Kiss my grits, man. I'm telling you, that's not right. So Joe Biden catching a lot of hell for what's happening there. And businesses in Hawaii are slamming Joe Biden for his comments about the kitchen fire. You know how his house was hit by lightning and he almost lost
my wife, my 67 Corvette, and my cat.
What a narcissistic thing to say. It's not about you, Joe. It's not about you. You don't have to identify. All you really have to do in a situation like this is come, express condolences, commit resources, and get the hell out of the way so they can start getting back to their lives. It's just a tragic mess. Again, 388 people on a list that are still unaccounted for. Authorities, for the first time, released a list naming 388 people who were unaccounted for in the aftermath of the deadliest wildfire. We already know 115 are dead. In publicizing the names late on Thursday, authorities hope to narrow the tally of missing. John Pelletier, Maui's police chief, asked anyone who survived the fire to come forward, and hopefully they can, take their name off the list. Officials had earlier said on Tuesday that 1,100 people remain unaccounted for, so the situation quite bad. Closer to home, again, these things, I just need to get them in under the wire. The Republican National Committee has picked Houston to host the 2028 presidential nominating convention. That's in 2028. We already know 2024 is going to be Milwaukee. We could have had either one of these were it not for the stupid actions of the Democrats who run the city government. I mean, they put up roadblocks and they left a bad taste in the mouth of the RNC that they were not welcome. And no matter how hard you work on it, I mean, I don't think the RNC could ever get over the fact that they were given such a runaround by the Democrats. If I'm correct, Houston is a city that has a Democrat government, maybe a Democrat mayor. I believe I'm correct in saying that. But at least they knew enough to say, hey, you know what? We'll take your money. Come on in. So that there were 3 different places that were being considered for the 2028. Nashville, Miami, Florida, and good old Houston, Texas. And Houston won. I mean, nobody wanted to be in Miami. I mean, does anybody really want to be in Houston in the middle of the summer? No, Nashville was the choice, and it was ours for the asking. And I blame our government at City Hall in Nashville, the council, the mayor, and everybody for putting up roadblocks that made the RNC look. Millions and millions and millions of dollars could have come into this city. And they chose to stand in the way because they're boneheads. Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell warned on Friday that we may have more rate increases. We're not done with inflation. And he's standing by his promise to try to get inflation down to 2%. Interest rates now knocking on the door of 8% right now on a 30-year mortgage. And so, again, the markets sort of, I guess, had figured this out by now, and there was no real major reaction on the major market indices today. But what this means is interest rates are going to be up, and I don't think inflation is going to go away anytime soon. given that we're all paying higher price for fuel price right now. Gasoline price is going up, and I don't see that getting any better. Speaking of cars, the United Auto Workers authorized a strike today in negotiations with major automakers. This is a sort of a traditional thing in a union. You all get together and say, well, does the union have are you ready to go on strike if we can't get a good deal? And the union voted 97% in favor of a strike for its 150,000 auto workers as negotiations continue with the big three automakers, which include Ford, General Motors, and Stellantis. The union is demanding wage increases to counter inflation, defined benefit pensions, retiree health care, the elimination of tiers for wages and benefits, among other demands. And, of course, we have people who build cars. We have people who are at the UAW right here in the state of Tennessee, no doubt. So we'll see how that all plays out. But, it doesn't mean there's going to be a strike. It means that, it's a negotiating position so that the union can walk in negotiations with management and say, well, 97% of our members say they're willing to go on strike. Nobody really wants to go on strike. Everybody hopes you can avoid that, but it could happen. Kelley Blue Book. A survey shows that consumers have hesitation about the idea of electric vehicles. More than half of the people who responded to the survey said concerns about the environment make them open to the idea of owning an electric vehicle, but they worry that an EV will be inconvenient and expensive. Among the concerns, how long does it take to charge up, as well as the cost of replacing batteries if they wear out. Moody has says that normal charging shouldn't be a major concern. 70% or 80% of electric vehicle owners charge their cars up at home. In that case, people are going to have a great experience because they just park it overnight. But, that doesn't answer the question, how do I drive 300-400 miles? And where do I stop to get charged? I think electric cars, if you're just going back and forth to work, that's fine. But you're not going to take this on a vacation trip across the country. You're just not, the way it is right now. So, again, Kelley Blue Book says the survey shows people have legitimate concerns. And then this from the Biden administration. We talked about this a little earlier. They've come after your dishwasher. They come after your air conditioning. They come after your gas ranges. They've come after your water heaters. And now the Biden administration wants to come after your ceiling fans. They'll never get my ceiling fan, I'll tell you. They say that we need to require ceiling fans to be more energy efficient. And this is the unbelievable thing about it. According to the Energy Department analysis, the new rules, if you were to get these ceiling fans that meet their rules, the average household would save $39 over the lifespan of a new energy efficient fan. I don't know. We were trying to figure out how long does a ceiling fan last. I think there's some people who have them that have been running since the 1970s. Same old fan. They just don't. It's an electric motor. Sort of hard to wear one out. The motor runs or the motor doesn't run. That's all it is. It's a motor with blades. But if you were to, let's say they go 20 years, that's $1.95 a year that you would be saving.
And then how much more will these new fans cost compared to the old ones, too?
Exactly right. Yep. Exactly right. It's 20 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock. Busy bee. It's been hotter than blue blazes out there, and if your air conditioner's not doing it what it needs to do to keep your home cool, just call this number that I would call, 615-775-7833. They'll buzz over to your house and get you up and running as soon as they possibly can. Now, they're going to give you all the options. Probably it's just a minor repair. Maybe you need some coolant, whatever, but they'll get you back up and running. But if it turns out that, your system has been around for a while, they do wear out. And if you've reached that point, maybe it's time to think about replacement. You're never going to find a better deal than you're going to find at Busy Bee. But they'll try to keep you running. They'll give you all the options when they come out. There's not going to be any pressure. I can assure you that. For added rewards and savings, you should sign up to be a Beehive member. It's as little as $99. You get 3 thorough maintenance services on your systems. One aimed at your heating, one aimed at your cooling, one aimed at your plumbing. No overtime charges 24/7 and 10% off all repairs. Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, your official Rude Pro partner. For satisfaction guarantee, call Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, 775-7833, online at busybhvac.com. Well, by now you probably have seen that mugshot of Donald Trump. I mean, that's a glare, isn't it? I mean, that I posted on social media today when I saw that picture that it reminds me of the way my dad used to look at me, when there was grab ass going on at the house. He didn't
grab ass.
Can you still say that? I don't know.
Sure.
I mean, when there's a lot of monkey business going on, he would, he didn't really, my dad didn't have to really say anything. He sort of just looked at you. I mean, if you were asked a yes or no question and you said, yeah.
Ooh.
He would say, he would give you that look. And you didn't even, you didn't have said, yes, sir. You immediately changed it. You back. Sorry. It was all it took was the glare. And that's what I see in this picture. It's a glare. How would you like to be Donald Trump Jr. and you come home and you've messed something up and you get that glare?
You've lost a couple of $1 million.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I'm telling you, it's a hell of a picture, and I think he did it on purpose. And by the way, the picture has already been put on T-shirts and mugs and koozies and whatever you can imagine. Gift, grab, what do you call them? Canvas bags, everything. And you could go, and it's all being used to raise money for Donald Trump's campaign. He leaned into it. I mean, what else? I mean, this is what you do. You either give him a big, bright smile like, I don't care, hit me with your best shot, hit me again. But I think this was the better way to go. The Donald Trump daddy stare. Did you have a dad like that where, all he had to do was sort of raise an eyebrow?
I didn't, not really. No, my dad didn't have the expression, but I've seen it plenty on other family members. I have some relatives that could give you that, and you went, "Ooh."
I've just overstepped my bounds, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know. I remember one time, I worked for my dad, and in a shop. My dad had a business where he sold water pumps, big old water, submersible water pumps. And out in West Texas, getting water out of the ground is an important thing. And one, I was working back in the shop, and I was trying to be proactive, trying to be, not standing around with my hands in my pocket. I was trying to find something to do. And a big shipment of pump motors came in. These are not cheap. And a whole shipment of them came in, and then they'd come in primer gray, and then we would put our particular color on them, which was sort of a turquoise bluish green. We would paint them with a spray gun, and so I put all the motors on the rack, and I painted all the motors, thinking, hey, they're going to be, nobody had to ask me to do it. I did this just fine.
Uh-huh.
And then my dad came back and said, who painted those motors? I said, I did. He said, they're the wrong motors. They were going back.
Oh, no.
And so they weren't the right kind of motors at all. And we had no way to use them, and yet I had painted them. On one hand, he thought, well, it was a sign that he was trying to do the right thing, trying to be proactive, trying not to sit around and wait, and just earn your money. Try to be doing something to earn your money while you're back there. But on the other hand, I don't know how much that cost him. I have no idea, but I have a feeling he walked. That was the one time I didn't get the glare. His head just hung down.
Just turned and walked away. Huh?
And he walked away, and he didn't say anything at all. That's what you get for putting your son back in the shop, That's it. And the worst thing that was about working in that shop, I'll just real quick story, is that we had to, when we get a pump put together, we had to test it. And we had this big metal tank. And you would use the winch, and you would lower the pump into the tank, and you would hook up, and then you could hook it up with electricity, and you could run the pump to make sure it was working right? Well, the water in this tank had not been changed in 20 years.
Ugh.
It was the nastiest stuff. Some of the old pumps, with mud and guck, and I mean, it was rancid. It was the worst water you could possibly imagine. And one day I dropped a wrench. And my dad saw it, and he said, you dropped it.
You got to go get it.
You got to go get it. And I had to go into that tank and get that thing out of it. Ooh. I'm glad that I'm not selling pumps.
That sealed the deal right there, didn't it?
Right there. This is the last summer I'm working and selling pumps. It's 6:30 now on Super Talk. Hey, if you have the desire to add some gold or silver to your portfolio, listen up. I want to tell you about Nashville Gold and Coin. If you're looking to buy real, actual, hold it in your hand gold, silver, or bullion, let me tell you, this is the place I do business, and it's a place I recommend. You'll get honest, friendly customer service and a real precious metals education. And they also specialize in buying, selling, and appraising of coins. You probably don't have any idea how much those old coins you have laying around might be worth. I brought in a few silver coins I had in a shoebox buried in my sock drawer, and it turned out to be worth, and I'm not making this up, $1,652. So whether you're in the market to purchase precious metals or you just want to find out what those coins in your closet might be worth, schedule a one-on-one consultation today. Go to NashvilleGoldandCoin.com. That's NashvilleGoldandCoin.com. It's 37 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. As you know, we're in the middle of a special session, and it's a little hard to keep up with all the things that have happened or not happened during this special session. Earlier today, we spoke with Representative Johnny Garrett, who is the House Majority Whip, about where things stand. All right, so let's talk about where we are, because it's a little hard to keep up, given the fact that, well, you know, you got a lot of activity. Things go to committee. Some things are rejected, or sent to study, or sent over. Maybe we'll look at this in January. And then you got the Senate, which came in and said basically they got, I think, 3 or 4 items that they're willing to consider. And they have also gone on record as saying that they don't really expect that they're going to open up any committees on the Senate side to consider things that are now being considered on the House. So where are we right now? What has a realistic chance of passing both the House and Senate and be sent over to the governor's office for his consideration?
Well, I'll tell you, it's real unfortunate when we have one side of the chamber, the House, ready to work, and the other side ready to go home and stay home. I mean, we have just a small group of senators that want to do nothing. They're part of the do nothing Senate at this point. I mean, we've done some really good things, had several bills that we were debating on the floor yesterday. I think we got through 7 or 8. There were 25 on the calendar yesterday. There's more for Monday. I mean, we are ready to do some good things for Tennesseans, and the Senate just doesn't want to do anything. They don't want to address our mental health crisis. The House is ready to. They don't want to defeat red flag laws. We did. We voted down every single potential red flag law that was filed during the special session. Those are done. We want to address juvenile crime in this state. We did that in the House. Our chamber next door, they don't. And so it's an interesting dilemma that we find ourselves in. But when the governor calls us back into special session, and any time that I can feel like that we can improve the lives of Tennesseans, that's the job that I was elected to do. That's the job the House is elected to do, and we're ready to work. So I think there's some hope here.
Okay. In what way? What do you think is the best thing that the House has come up with thus far? Because the governor wanted, he doesn't call it a red flag law, but it really basically was a red flag law. And you say that's all been rejected. That's not going to happen. And I think that, that was pretty much made clear to the governor beforehand. So what actually do you think is the best thing that's going to be coming out of the House that has a chance of passage in the Senate?
Well, we hope that the juvenile justice reform that's on the table with these blended sentences, we hope that the Senate believes that's an important issue to tackle. We've already increased access to mental health with more funding in our appropriations bill. We hope that will be put up to a vote on Monday or Tuesday or whenever they decide to wake up and work over there. We've passed some legislation to fortify our fire alarms. And one of the problems with the Covenant shooting is they didn't know. They thought it was a fire alarm, and it wasn't actually a fire alarm. Of course, it was a completely different situation. We've passed legislation to address that issue. We've provided legislation for more security funding for our higher education. We've passed legislation that's been supported by the Covenant parents to protect the autopsies of children, so anyone can't just go and grab these autopsies for no apparent reason. I mean, there's serious work that I believe we could still get done. We just got to make sure the Senate realizes the importance of what we've done, and we're right there on the finish line. The House is ready, and we just hope. Well,
is there any? I'm sorry to interrupt you, but is there anything among this that is so urgent that it couldn't have waited until January?
I think the conversation is well worth having these issues and discussing. But some of these, I believe, I don't know that there's an overwhelming desire that there was an immediate thing that we could do at a special session or January, because I've always believed that if we've got someone that's in some sort of crisis, I mean, they're in some sort of mental crisis and they can be a harm to themselves or a harm to others, you can't just go after the object. You've got to go after them. You need to make sure we can get them in a situation, in an environment where we can get them treatment, where we can get them, to a doctor to see what's going on with their particular situation. And if you do that, and if you can get the ability to take care of that person, well, you remove their ability to get to any weapons or objects that could harm people. So you're kind of taking care of both, but you're not just concentrating on an object, which has seemed to be the focus of what a lot of folks wanted this special session to be about. But we believe that that's not the actual root of the problem. The root of the problem is the person. And we got to make sure we have the resources available, the funding available to treat that person, to figure out what's going on that leads them down this violent path to then act like a violent criminal and actually commit some of these crimes. We've got to get to the root of that.
Well, you mentioned that the Senate doesn't seem to be wanting to be all too much involved in this process. How involved has the governor been? Because I've seen a story that said he's been not present during the special session, not working to push for things that the governor's office thinks is important, which is often the case. So has the governor been absent?
He's not been absent, so to speak, but I know and I'm aware of when the leadership of both the House and the Senate decide to meet, typically they have meetings with the governor and the governor's staff, and the Senate has said, we don't want the governor there. And so when the governor gets that message and thinks that the House and Senate are going to maybe work through getting something done, but then the Senate won't even work with the House, it becomes a real dilemma. And that's why I say it's really in the Senate. The ball's in the Senate's court here. for what's left to do come Monday, Tuesday, or whenever this thing's going to end. So the governor's not been absent. The governor's letting the legislative process take place. He's filed his bills. He's had sponsors for those bills. Those bills have been up for debate in committee. He's had himself, along with probably his staff, working these bills. So there's been no difference other than making a political point as to say that he's absent. But he is working the governor's legislation that he's brought forth in this special session, along with any other members, is a legislative process, and that is what I can see is happening. Other than when it comes to what bills are traveling through the system, and there's maybe some amendments here, hey, we can do this better a little here, and we get the governor involved, and the Senate just doesn't want to speak with their staff. It's a hard pill to swallow when you've got one chamber that doesn't want to meet with the executive branch of our government. That's why I say they've got to get their head out of sand and start coming to the plate so we can get some real things done.
All right. So I've heard it said that a great number of people really did not want to have this special session, that the governor may have jumped the gun without, doing his due diligence to find out what kind of appetite there might be for a special session. Would you agree with that assessment or not agree with that assessment?
I would agree that at least from my call, because I can't speak for everyone, or at least from the House perspective, there was some reservations on the immediacy of coming to the special session. And I think that's why the governor kind of took a breath, met with legislatures over the summer, and kind of came up with a call.
But wouldn't it have been better for that conversation to happen before rather than after?
Oh, it did happen before the special session was called, when he met with legislatures to kind of get their insight, their ideas, whatever they wanted to see if a special session would have been called. And that's why I think the call was, was a pretty narrow call for what he saw the legislature and along with what he wanted to see discussed in special session. So I don't see that as, go ahead.
No, I was going to just say, because if what I'm reading in the situation that you have described is that the Senate has no appetite for this special session whatsoever. Not real. I mean, they're doing a few things, but they really don't have much appetite for it, or they would be, as you say, more involved and not just sort of checked out. And it seems like to me that before you go into a special session, you ought to have some expectation of what can really honestly be accomplished. And he put out this order of protection bill, and that's just not going to happen. It's never going to happen. And then it became a thing where he said, well, let's just use it as a place where people put out their ideas and let's see what happens. Is that any way to run a special session?
No, it's not. And I think if the special, there's two ways to call a special session. It's one by a vote of the House and a vote of the Senate, or the governor calls it like he did in this one. If it was up to the House, if he punted this to say, hey, House, Senate, you want a special session, I don't think you would have had the votes to call a special session. So that's kind of the sentiment, that if it was up to us, we wouldn't have that particular special session. But since he did call it, and by statute he has that ability, I'm elected to work for the 45th district, and I'm ready to come to work to make things. Since we got to be here anyway, we might as well try to do the best we can to have the best policy out of this special session. And I think since we're already here, and since we've already had several bills that even a lot of the senators have filed, they're worth at least a discussion. They're worth at least that time in committee. So the Senate, so the people that elected them, can hear whatever legislation that is filed. Like I said, we have killed everything on the House side that would even come close to any ERPO or order of protection law or whatnot. Now we've got what we have left, that what we have legs are actually good things for Tennesseans that could come out of a special session that probably really nobody wanted.
All right, and okay, it's $60,000 a day just for transportation and per diem, and not to mention the added security that had to be brought in. I mean, are we getting our money's worth out of this?
I think you are, and I think we will. If Tennesseans will, once we get through, you will see the policy that we develop, and I think that'll be worth that cost. But there's no additional cost. We budget every year for 90 legislative days. That's the most we can have in the General Assembly for given for the 2 years that we will be in session. So this is not costing the Tennessee taxpayer anything additional, and any additional security that might be had for overtime purposes for state troopers, that's already incorporated in their existing budget. So it's not like we are going to be costing anything more to the taxpayer because we've already budgeted those dollars in for our normal legislative process.
Well, just because they've been budgeted doesn't mean that they have to be spent. That's just one thing. Well, listen, thank you to the House Majority Whip, Representative Johnny Garrett, for being on the show earlier today. Look, there's no appetite in the Senate for this thing. It really should never have happened. The state legislature is doing, what legislatures do when there's been a big disaster. Well, we must do something. We must take some action. I think you don't have the information you need to make good decisions. And I think that given there was no appetite for the legislation that the governor was pitching, that maybe it would have been better just to wait until January. Perhaps by then we'll have something with the manifesto. Maybe we'll know something more about what was motivating the covenant shooter. But one way or the other, whatever comes out of this particular special session doesn't seem like it's going to be all that much. And I'm sort of more of the Senate than I am of the House on this one. I think maybe it was something that maybe we should have just put off. But that's just me. It is now 50 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk. Have you noticed how unreliable things have become these days? Like when someone tells you, hey, that thing you want will be ready at 4 o'clock. Get there, it's not ready. Well, people are tired of that stuff. And if you've had it with unreliable vehicle repair shops, come to Eurofix. Eurofix turns unreliable into reliable. And Eurofix has your vehicle ready when it's really supposed to be ready, so you're not standing around waiting, tapping your toe. Eurofix repairs all European cars with quality that beats the dealer without dealer pricing. And that's because dealer repair shops are designed to pay virtually all of a dealership's overhead. That's a lot of money. Why would you want to pay for that? At Eurofix, reliable means a 3-year nationwide warranty plus a free loaner car with every repair appointment. Make sure you call ahead because loaner cars are very popular. If you're tired of unreliable repair shops, come to where it's reliable. Eurofix, family owned for 24 years. 844-EUROFIX or visit myEurofix.com.
Hey folks, I'm Paul Winkler. One of the things I've been hearing a lot from people lately is the concern about the dollar crashing. And you'll see this out there on the internet all over the place, articles written about it. And the idea is that the Russian and Chinese, those countries are looking at getting together and creating their own currency that will compete against the US dollar as a reserve currency. Now, for many, many decades, there have been other currencies that have been trying to vie for that status. And there's a possibility that you're going to have some that are going to encroach on that a little bit. But is it that big of a thing to worry about? Well, number one, last year, the Chinese currency made up very little of any kind of world trade, number one. But what is it that's really going on underneath the surface? A lot of it is trying to sell you newsletters and investments that you probably ought to stay away from. For example, one of the things I see is, well, you ought to buy gold because the dollar's going to crash. And you see all of these commercials out there, and I say, well, wait a minute, wait. They're trying to get you to buy gold with your what? They're looking to take your dollars. If they really believe what they're saying, why would they take your dollars for their gold? Number one. Number two, how do you protect yourself against these valuation changes in various currencies? Well, let me explain it this way. Let's say that you had a currency called the clam. Okay, and you had a country that had one clam and you could exchange it for $1 at any one point in time. Let's say that that's the case. And you had a widget that was sold by this country and you could buy that widget in that country for one clam. So you take your $1, you exchange it for a clam, and then you got your widget. Now what if the dollar weakens? Well, what happens, now this clam is the same, right? Nothing different here, it's the same deal. But instead of $1, now it takes $2 to get the clam. Now, what happened? Your widget just doubled in price from your perspective as an American. Well, how do we use this to our advantage? As an investor, we want to make sure that we don't just myopically only focus on U.S. stocks. And that's a big mistake investors made from 2000 through 2010 and other periods in history, in the 1970s, the late 1980s, and so on and so forth. What we want to do is we want to make sure that we have good international diversification, because if the dollar weakens, then those international investments go up in value. So it's very, very important to know how globally diversified you really are as an investor. You want to learn more? Call us up for a free 15-minute consultation at paulwinkler.com, and we'll walk you through what we do and see if we can be of help to you, the investor out there that is so often being sold things that they really don't need to be buying.
One 877